The Pirate Journey of Arceus. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251. You guys can't even beat my pigs. CP0 team came here on a large warship. Although the warship's cabin can accommodate such a big guy, it will be a big trouble once it wakes up. Although the members of their team are not afraid of this thing, it can easily damage the warship when it goes crazy. Can we move immediately after thawing? Of course not. If you need it, you can thaw it in punk hazard first, and then anesthetize it before you take it away. Well, that one. Thaw it and anesthetize it, and load it on the ship. The captain of CP0 pointed to a large test subject with 3 written on its body. 3 is its experimental number. The reason for choosing this is just because it looks stronger, and 3 at least indicates that there are 1 and 2, which is easier to trade. After this team of CP0 set sail with the number 3 test subject, the beast pirates also made new moves. Unlike CP0 driving a warship to trade, Kaido did not plan to bring a group of people. He transformed into a blue dragon and used a flame cloud to roll King Yanwu into the air, then went directly to the trading place. He did not bring anyone except Quinn, who was used to take the blame, so that he could retreat in time if something went wrong. Quinn, have you memorized the lines? Don't worry, brother Kaido, this kind of thing can be performed on the spot without any problem. I'm a professional in this area. Quinn, who turned into a tropical dragon, flew behind Kaido and assured him confidently. The so-called lines were not complicated, just Quinn belittling the defective products made by the world government. King Yanwu closed his eyes tightly. He was a little afraid of heights. He was originally just an ordinary wild boar with a body size of a billion, but he had experienced a lot in his pig life recently, and now he even experienced flying. In the doldrums near the New World, a ship flying the cross flag of the world government docked here. This was the place where they traded with Kaido. This time there was no middleman from the underground world, and they were directly talking to the pirates. They didn't want to be discovered. The world government still has to save face. Although the deal between them and the pirates has always existed, it is impossible to let the whole world know that they have a deal with the pirates. Just like Spandine went through the process in Ohara, the world government attaches great importance to the so-called justification for doing things, and attaches great importance to the fig leaf. There are not many people on this warship. When they arrived here, they found that Kaido had already arrived and was sitting on the coast. Are you finally here? Are you lackers so slow when doing things for your masters? Familiar trash talk, but the expressions of the CP0 did not change at all. Their mentality has been tempered long ago. If other people's condemnation can affect them, I'm afraid that the CP0 organization should have committed collective suicide long ago. Most people will not offend people who work for the celestial dragons in person, but there are always many things that stab them in the back. Whether it is a member country or a non-member country, ordinary people have no good impression of the celestial dragons. Unless they are the royal family of the kingdom of Goa who want to become a celestial dragon, or are willing to serve the celestial dragons. Stop talking nonsense, Kaido. We are here to negotiate a deal. I know, but we have to show you what your so-called giant weapon looks like. CP0 gestured to the people behind him, and a large wooden board slid down from the deck of the ship behind him, and then a giant iron cage covered with black cloth was pushed down from it. The world government is very sincere. Since you are not interested in Bailey, how about this? As he said that, he pulled away the black cloth covering it. Subject number 3, who was sleeping due to the powerful anesthetic, was dozing off. This is the result of the government's reproduction of the ancient giants. It is larger than ordinary giants, and it is enough for the fights between you pirates. It looks like it, but how can we know if it is as useful as you said on the phone if we don't try it? How do you want to test it? Since it is a weapon, of course it must be tested in combat. Kaido's words made CP0's face look a little ugly. This kind of failure could not be Kaido's opponent. If he tested it like this, it was clearly a lack of sincerity. However, Kaido's next words made him change his mind a little. It just so happens that my men have also made some research results. Why don't we let them compare with each other? If it can win, I will agree to this deal. Although these things were not made by Vegapunk himself, he also started it, and then the second in command Caesar Clown took over and invested a lot of money from the world government. How could a mere pirate group come up with something comparable? Okay, wake him up. The subordinate took out a large syringe and injected it into No-3's body and opened the exit of the cage. Soon, the obese test subject with 2 straight sharp horns on his head and a small mustache on his chin walked out of the cage. And the first thing it did was to attack CP0 beside it. It seems that you don't listen to orders very much. It's just that you haven't been trained yet. You can't even solve this little problem. Do you need help to tame you? Faced with Quinn's question, he asked it back and changed disobeying orders to untamed. Pirates are a group that loves face. Normally, for the sake of face, they would never ask them to help tame. And it's not certain who the creatures tamed by the world government will listen to. Mahahaha, there is no need to train such a disobedient waste. Come and see the results of this, uncle. Come out, King Yan Wu. A shaking sound came from the woods on the island, and then in the eyes of CP0, a wild boar man who was about the same size as the number 3 test subject walked out. As giant creatures, even if they have pig heads, this kind of orc is more intimidating than humans. The most important thing is that CP0 found that King Yan Wu seemed to obey orders. Go ahead, King Yan Wu, deal with that big guy, and I'll give you a snack tonight. After bumping his fists together, King Yan Wu rushed towards the experimental subject on the beach. Compared with the experimental subject's behavior of not listening to orders, King Yan Wu was absolutely disciplined. Before number 3 could react to what happened, he was punched in the face by King Yan Wu and flew backwards. Number 3, who was knocked into the sea, shook his head and sat up. After an angry roar, he changed his attack target and rushed towards King Yan Wu again. The 2 giant beasts started to fight on the beach. But anyone can see that compared to the random attack of the experimental subject number 3, King Yan Wu has already taken advantage of it. For a moment, the face of the captain of CP0 became ugly. I think the 3 ghosts should be named after the beasts, so now there are only numbers in the setting, no names. Chapter 252, The Wrong Path and Evolution. Woo! King Yan Wu blocked the punch of the experimental subject, and then the flames on his fists hit his ribs. Most of the battles between giant creatures have no skills to speak of, just relying on brute force to swing fists randomly. Their own strength can make up for the lack of skills to a great extent. Only when the strength and speed of both parties are roughly at the same level, can the skills be more useful. And King Yan Wu's various indicators are slightly stronger than this experimental subject, so the battle on the beach is just a one-sided beating. King Yan Wu, stop playing, use the flaming fist to solve that guy. After hearing Quinn's request, King Yan Wu's fists ignited flames again. The experimental subject did not have the resistance of Kaido. The fists wrapped in flames left a charred mark on the chest of the experimental subject, and the beard on the chin was also burned clean. The experimental subject let out a tragic roar in pain, and his body kept retreating, and finally fell on the beach, and King Yan Wu's body also jumped high, aiming his elbow at the abdomen of the experimental subject and hitting it. There seemed to be a small earthquake on the beach. A big pit appeared under the body of the experimental subject. Even the seawater under the beach began to seep out. If it were another world, the eyes of the experimental subject would have become mosquito-repellent eyes. However, it can be seen that it has lost its ability to fight. King Yan Wu, come back. After listening to Quinn's order, King Yan Wu walked back and sat cross-legged directly behind them. Millimeters, ha ha ha, the things you guys are researching are really rubbish. They are not the opponents of my little pig. You still want to trade such things? The CP0 agents regarded the beast pirates as a group of primitive people. They thought that they could exchange precious minerals from them with flints, but when they came here, they found that the other party directly took out a lighter, which was windproof. With the quality gap, they knew very well that this transaction was probably a failure. The giant beasts that obeyed orders and could use fire were much stronger than the brainless giants they brought. It's a pity that your broken thing doesn't seem to work. Can it plow the land? It looks like it can't do it. Let's talk about it after you come up with something valuable. Quinn, let's go. He turned into a blue dragon, and the flame cloud took King Yanwu away from here. Quinn followed closely behind him. Before leaving, he didn't forget to complain that the people of the world government had no vision and actually took a fancy to Caesar, a waste. Although Quinn was rude, the CP0s didn't have any temper at all. They knew their own strength very well. Pirates of Kaido's level were no match for them. The pressure on them to carry out the mission was much greater than Kaido's. After all, if Kaido broke up with them, they would have no way to deal with him, and they might not be able to escape. Captain. That thing. Bloodline factor? As a team that deals with the laboratory every day, they are not unfamiliar with the term bloodline factor. And this term is not a secret. The pacifist plan that is being studied now is somewhat related to the ability of the bloodline factor. Just now, King Yanwu and the experimental subject even had a fight in the seawater. The waist-deep seawater affected King Yanwu a lot, but it also ruled out the possibility that it was an animal awakener pretending to be one. The only conclusion they could draw from the wild boar man who could use fire was that Quinn had made a breakthrough in the bloodline factor and had put it into practice. Maybe those people were really blind at the time and actually let such a person go. What should we do now? Retreat. Let the people above worry about the rest. This incident at least shows that Kaido has the intention to trade. Whether we can offer the price he wants is not ours. The transaction failed, and the CP0 team returned empty-handed again. The half-dead experimental subject was also packed and taken back by them. King Yanwu even helped them save a lot of anesthetics. Although it was a failure, this thing couldn't be thrown away directly. Transporting them back to Punk Hazard and freezing them again was the biggest possibility at the moment. Punk Hazard. After hearing the report sent by CP0, Caesar's expression was almost distorted. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. How could that idiot achieve both bloodline factor and gigantism at the same time? Caesar didn't believe that Quinn could do what he couldn't do, but the information report brought back by CP0 just explained everything, which forced him to accept this cruel reality. In fact, Caesar was not the only one who thought so. Just as Scourge's change made the Navy start the research on pacifists in advance, the appearance of King Yanwu proved the feasibility of the experiment. The reason why the ancient giant revival experiment failed was not that the plan was not good, but that they took the wrong path. Under this guidance, the sealed plan was restarted again and led them astray. Purebred giants are not good, and demons like Oz are not good either. The appearance of King Yanwu shows that animals are more likely to combine with bloodline factors, and beastmen are the right path. Guided by this idea, they went further and further on the wrong path. The transaction of Seaston was not abandoned. They believed that Kaido's willingness to meet was a big breakthrough, and began to explore whether to take the stone tablet from other celestial dragons as a trading item. Kaido and Quinn have not returned to Onigashima with King Yanwu. The place of transaction is in the doldrums, and it will take a long time to return to Onigashima. Something happened on Onigashima. Yamato and the others saw the evolution of Pokemon for the first time. Kaido's departure from Onigashima means that it is time for her to take a vacation. Although there are many more access control points on Onigashima, places without access control can still be entered and exited at will. The houses on Onigashima have more than one floor, so when she was running on the stairs, she accidentally stepped on the stairs and rolled several times on the stairs. Although she is still a child, her body has been through a lot of exercise, which is nothing to her. Even at the moment of falling, her first reaction was to hold the little fairy milk in her arms. During this process, the little fairy milk also experienced a lot of rolling, and Yamato had some chocolate in his arms. When the rolling little fairy milk encountered candy, its evolution condition was triggered. After Nico Robin stopped Yamato with the arm spawned by the flower fruit to make her stop, a shining white light appeared in Yamato's arms. The originally pure white fairy milk began to grow larger, from an ordinary little ball to a little doll wearing a princess dress, but the color changed. The originally pure white fairy milk turned into light brown because of the chocolate. Chapter 253 Robin's potential as a Pokemon researcher. It's evolved. Yamato smiled in surprise as she watched the frost milk jumping on her belly. This was the first time they had seen evolution up close. Arceus had mentioned evolution to them before, but he hadn't told them how to evolve frost milk. Most Pokémon evolve through level evolution, which means that they will evolve naturally after training to a certain level. These Pokémon will feel when they are about to evolve. In addition, the most common way is to evolve through evolution stones. When facing evolution stones, they will sense it and know what will happen after they come into contact with it. As for the remaining communication evolution, intimacy evolution, and random evolution forms like frost milk, the unevolved Pokémon themselves can't explain it clearly, so Yamato, who has the power of evergreen, has never known how frost milk evolves. In addition, most of the other Pokémon he created are in their final forms, or have no evolved forms. Magikarp is far away in the sea, and they have no chance to meet at all, so they have never had this opportunity before. What my godfather said is true. Evolution is indeed the most magical thing in the world. The change in form and appearance made Frosty the Fairy look completely different from before. Even her cry had changed a bit, but Yamato was still sure that this was her little fairy. The power of Evergreen made it easy for her to communicate with her. The little fairy who evolved into Frosty the Fairy was also very happy. She clapped her hands and made a lot of vanilla chocolate flavored cream. The cream made by the little fairy that had not evolved was original flavor, while the evolved ones would also change their flavor according to the rotation and candy they carried during evolution. The chocolate in Yamato's arms and the rolling amplitude made its taste become this flavor. Yamato was having a great time with Frosty the Fairy, but Jack looked at his little fairy. He seemed to sense that the little fairy had a kind of envy. Do you want to evolve too? Yes. Jack made a comparison in his thinking logic. Yamato accidentally rolled down the stairs with the little fairy, so her little fairy evolved. By the same token, if he rolled down the stairs with the little fairy, it should also be able to evolve. Although he was only a few months older than Yamato, Jack had already become reckless. After he had determined this logic, he picked up his little fairy milk and rolled down the stairs beside him. Before the girls beside him could react, Jack's round body had already rushed to the next floor. Jack. Mariah extended a large spider web from her hand to try to stick to Jack, but due to his own weight and the potential energy brought by the rolling, Mariah's spider web only slightly slowed down Jack's rolling speed. In the end, it was Robin and Mariah who worked together to stop Jack. As a fishman, he had thick skin and flesh, so this rolling did not cause any effect, but his little fairy milk did not evolve. Strange, why didn't it evolve? Did I roll down the wrong stairs? As he said this, he was going to try again on the stairs that Yamato had rolled down before, but this time he was stopped. They might not be able to stop this big guy if he rolled again. Wait a minute, Jack. The evolution of the fairy milk must not be so simple, otherwise they would have evolved long ago. Mariah also wanted her fairy milk to evolve. She seemed to be born with a maternal instinct. Others treated the fairy milk as a partner, but she directly treated it as a child. The urge of the child to evolve was understandable. Taking Yamato's frost milk fairy as an example, they began to study the evolution principle of the fairy milk. However, the only conclusion Mariah and Jack could draw was that the evolution of the fairy milk had some connection with Yamato's rolling just now. At this time, Robin gave some of his own insights. Is it related to the candy on you? Due to the color, the chocolate ornament on the top of Yamato's frost milk fairy's head was not very obvious, but Robin noticed it. This was a person who collected enough information in half a day. Some people's efforts for more than 10 years could not compare to her half a day, and details have always been important in archaeology, so she noticed this difference. She also had a piece of chocolate in her hand, which Yamato gave her before. If you compare them carefully, you can see that the style of the chocolate is the same. Now Nico Robin also wants to understand how the frosty milk fairy evolved, and the evolution of the little fairy milk aroused her interest. Archaeology is a very boring thing, especially reading those tedious documents. The interest of young Robin in archaeology is closely related to environmental factors. The fear of her peers made her have no companions, and the discrimination of her relatives made her lack of care. Only the scholars of the Tree of All-Knowing could look at her with an equal eye and prepare birthday cakes for her. In order to better integrate into this group, she naturally began to get in touch with archaeology and gradually became interested. At the same time, Olivia's behavior also had a certain influence on her. No one in the beasts is afraid of people with abilities. When she came here, she at least came into contact with some peers. Unlike the original timeline, she had been living in intrigues to avoid being hunted and even couldn't sleep well. Now she at least has a good dream at night. Although there is no little fairy milk, it does not prevent her from getting in touch with this matter in order to better integrate into a group. Moreover, the characteristics of little fairy milk generating cream and evolving also aroused her curiosity. She was just a theorist, but Jack was a practical man. He didn't have any chocolate, but he had lemon mint candy. After putting the mint candy in the hands of the fairy, he rolled down again. None of the three of them expected Jack to roll down again, so this time Jack directly hit the corner of the stairs. But this also verified Robin's speculation that candy and the evolution of the fairy were directly related. His fairy also evolved into a cream fairy, but the main color was light yellow, and it was dotted with a little green. Success. It also evolved. Jack raised his cream fairy. Male fishmen can also have a little girlish heart when they were young. Great, Robin, you guessed it right. It turns out that you have to roll with candy. Mariah looked around. She only had some matcha snacks on her, but she thought she could give it a try. So she also planned to copy Jack's behavior. Because her physical fitness was not that strong, she had turned into a big spider in beast form and planned to roll down in this posture. Wait. Don't roll down the stairs. I think it's enough to just spin. It doesn't need such a big amplitude. Just take it and spin it a few times. Hearing this, Mariah tried it, and the third green cream fairy appeared here. Chapter 254, A completely different life. The little fairy milk is an amorphous evolution. Some of them are not even the type that appeared in the past, and the new and similar sugar decorations make them have a new form. Vanilla chocolate, lemon mint, milky matcha. The three colors of the cream milk fairy represent three completely different flavors. Although they can't float around like before after evolution, they have no inconvenience in moving around with hands and feet. The cream milk fairy can produce cream in the palm of its hand at will. The newly evolved ones played wildly with the children, who saw their evolution, which led to a period of time when they each held a piece of linen and a bucket in their hands. In a sense, Yamato and Jack started the world's first Pokemon duel, and the way of duel was that everyone threw cream at each other. The cream itself is not harmful, but it caused cream to be everywhere. Cleaning the cream on the wall is what they have to do next. Even Robin on the side was affected. Although she didn't have a cream milk fairy, the flying cream didn't let her go. Jack and Yamato were cleaning the floor and the shorter walls, while the higher walls and ceiling were the scope of cleaning for Mariah and Robin. One of them can climb high with the power of the spider fruit, and the other one can extend many arms with the flower fruit. Ordinary children may complain of being tired when doing this job, but this is not the case for these children. Compared with Kaido's training and daily physical training, this job is nothing. But this is nothing in terms of physical strength. They are required to clean every corner thoroughly, which is the most difficult. But when cleaning, Yamato found something wrong. Robin, why are you laughing? Laughing? Am I laughing? Of course, the smile on your mouth never disappears. Robin is much more convenient to do housework than them. When they run around with sackcloth, she only needs to stand still and activate her ability. More than a dozen pieces of sackcloth work at the same time. After cleaning an area, they just need to use their ability to summon new arms. Because it's interesting? Interesting? Your hobby is so weird. In fact, it's not weird, but she got what she lacked in her childhood. When she lived in Olivia's brother's house, she did a lot of housework. As Olivia's brother, he did raise Robin. But the situation was different after a long time. They didn't expect Olivia to be gone for 6 years. Although her brother didn't drive Robin out, he began to feel that Robin was dragging his feet under his wife's complaints, and he never missed the housework every day. But doing housework alone is a completely different concept from doing housework here in a playful way. She seems to understand what friends of the same age feel. People here don't think she is a monster or a weirdo because of her abilities. Interesting, practical, and good abilities are what she gets evaluated for. The culture within the beasts is still based on competition, but this competition has eased a lot. But as long as competition exists, strength is something that others envy. After cleaning, Yamato and Mariah went to the Kaido bathroom on the top floor, Jack went to the big bathhouse downstairs, and Robin returned to the Sky Island above, because it was sunset. At the edge of Sky Island, Zoro wore a big straw hat, and looked at the sunset in the distance. The safety of those scholars was not a problem, but their freedom was restricted to a certain extent. This was also his original opinion. He believed that the scholars had violated the law, but the crime was not punishable by death. It was enough to study under supervision. He did not expect that a group of pirates would do such a thing now. The people of the beasts told him that he could not leave here in a short time. He accepted this and understood the current situation. The basic lifespan of the giants is 300 years. It doesn't matter if he delays some time here. He plans to watch Robin grow up first, and he doesn't want Robin to have a pirate mind. There is nothing to do on Sky Island. He just watches the sunset and thinks about life every day. Recently, he also got some philosophy books from the newly established library and is studying the problem of human nature. All kinds of living conditions on Sky Island have been met. According to the requirements of the scholars, the beasts pirates built a big clock on Sky Island to indicate the time. Watching the hour hand move to the position of 7, Zoro also knew that Robin would be back soon. A few minutes later, a 1,000-year-old dragon rushed out from the clouds of Sky Island, and Robin was also brought back. Those clouds are not ordinary clouds, but newly generated sea clouds. Ordinary clouds in the sky and clouds on the Sky Island are different manifestations of clouds, and sea clouds near island clouds will also evaporate and disappear. It's just that the characteristics of island clouds will make it gather ordinary clouds and transform them into sea clouds. If nothing unexpected happens, new sea clouds will be generated around this small Sky Island in a few years. Zoro, I'm back. Are you having fun? Happy? Those creatures called Pokemon here are really interesting. This is something Zoro didn't expect. No one in the beasts has instilled any ideas into Robin. They just let her play with Yamato and the others, and she can participate in some training if she wants. Because in the eyes of the beasts, there is no need for such things. It is enough to influence them imperceptibly. The friendship and youth will affect many things, and there is no need to rush. In the new Tree of All-Knowing library, Olivia also prepared dinner and waited for Robin to come back. The giant vines spawned by Arceus not only tied up the Sky Island, but also extended a large part. With the help of Zoro, the scholars hollowed out part of the vines and stored the books again, and many people lived directly in the houses. There were also some houses under construction around, but most of them were tents. They had no experience in building buildings on the island cloud of the Sky Island. The foundation of the Sky Island was completely different from the foundation on ordinary soil. Before the corresponding experts arrived, they could only learn from the Shandians to set up tents. It happened that the people who went to Angel Island to collect shellfish had already set off. They also received orders from Arceus to learn how to build houses from there, or directly bring back a few people who knew how to build houses. They lived in tree houses and tents, but there was no problem with other things. Some rooms had lights on, which was completely different from the Wano country below. In this season, the Wano country gets dark later, but it is already dark, but there is no artificial light in most places. Chapter 255, Electric Shock Monsters and Scholars. From Sky Island, you can overlook the entire Wano country. The brightly lit Flower City forms a sharp contrast with the villages with only sporadic lights on the periphery. Except for the lights in Flower City and the place where the generals live, most places are dim, and only the place where the beasts pirates live is lit up with a different light. This is the result of Arceus leading the decoration. Obviously, there is the technology for power generation and storage, but at the beginning Kaido planned to have a retro style on Onigashima, but Arceus thought it was stupid to use torches to illuminate such a large house. So there is a large power storage device under Onigashima. In this unscientific world, the conversion rate of many energy sources has become extremely high, such as human powered generators. At the beginning, the power supply of Onigashima was basically human, and later there was some solar energy supplement. All-powerful Quinn showed his role again. At first, he wanted to build a hydroelectric power station at the waterfall behind Onigashima, but the flow and location of the waterfall were not enough to meet this demand. Building a power station there would easily reduce the flow of the waterfall outside the harbor, resulting in the exposure of the cave entrance, so he gave up on this matter. The factories in Wano country are mainly manpower, and there is no demand for electricity. However, as the level of intelligence of the equipment in Onigashima increases, the demand for electricity is also gradually increasing. Rotom can meet the energy consumption of the electrical appliances it hosts, but not all electrical appliances are hosted by Rotom. So some time ago, probably not long after Sky Island was brought back, the power supply of Onigashima also entered the Pokemon era. The choice of Pokemon for power supply varies according to the region. There is a Electabuzz living in Sky Island above and Onigashima below. As the evolution of Electabuzz is larger, with thicker arms and a special pattern on its back. From the back, it looks like a double-headed socket. Unlike Electabuzz that steals electricity from power plants, they no longer need to do so after evolution, and can also generate electricity for other electrical appliances. It's just that their voltage is not controlled, so they are all charged into a giant battery. Although there is only one, the power supply of Electabuzz is very terrifying. Just one Electabuzz can provide all the electricity needed for the buildings of a large city for a year. The amount of electricity generated by Electabuzz is proportional to the heart rate. When the heart rate increases, the amount of electricity generated will increase. The amount of electricity generated is the highest among the electric Pokemon. In theory, if there is an Electabuzz, there is no need to worry about power outages in the summer, nor do you have to worry about the scene of the Battle of the Two Cities. The power consumption of Onigashima is easy for Electabuzz, and it cannot let itself get too excited, otherwise it will easily burst the battery. In fact, one Electabuzz can meet the power supply of Onigashima and the Sky Island above at the same time. Arranging two is not only for convenience, but also for safety. The combat power of Pokemon like Wind Fairy is average, but Electabuzz is different. When fighting, the voltage in its body will rise rapidly. It is used to holding its tail with electric sparks to attack the enemy with electricity. It will use the tips of its two tails to press the opponent and release more than 20,000 volts of electricity to attack. Although this voltage is not enough for some people, it is enough to pose a threat to ordinary residents on Ohara, and there are also Millennium Dragons and Olga who appears from time to time. Her ordinary physical training is no longer effective. Actual combat is the fastest way to increase her level. The main power supply is the Pokemon Center. The equipment there is not allowed to be powered off. There is no power supply in Zorora, and he is still training himself by stepping on the generator. The working hours of the electric shock monster are very flexible. He can complete his workload in half an hour every day. The rest of the time is his reasonable time to slack off, such as picking fruits in the forest. Although they don't know how to build houses on the Sky Island, they have no problem planting trees. As long as the seeds are sown and the saplings are planted, the trees on the Sky Island are more likely to survive. Although it is getting dark, some scholars are not idle. Although they are studying history, they are not studying history all the time. Some of those scholars are just here to help. Their main research direction is actually paleontology, but the gap between paleontology and electric shock monsters is a bit big. This magical creature has aroused more interest in them. How do you think it generates electricity? It can generate electricity by swinging its arms? Such a large amount of power supply is not scientific. Scientific? Can normal creatures grow like this? I don't think any creature will evolve into this. It is probably the result of transformation. I don't think so. Although its structure is strange, every part can be used, and its intelligence is very high. No one can transform such a creature. The two had a disagreement on this issue, and neither of them could convince the other. The electric shock beast didn't want to pay attention to them at all. In its eyes, these were just two scholars with strange brains. Today, a troublesome thing happened in the new Tree of All Knowledge library. When Robin returned here, he saw a room full of cotton floating everywhere. Dr. Krober was already drowned in cotton. This is because just before Robin came back, a wind fairy drifting with the wind came here. Due to the unique cyclone environment outside Wano country, they will not fly out of Wano country. But this small sky island belongs to the cyclone of Wano country, so a wind fairy floated here with the wind and slipped in through the window. Pranks are the nature of wind fairies. Every time they arrive at a new room, they will spread their hair, which has been fluffed up by the sun, everywhere. The cotton is the evidence of the existence of wind fairies. At first, the scholars didn't understand what happened. They just thought someone's quilt was leaking. It was cold at night at an altitude of 2,000 meters, so they all had warm clothes. But when the cotton became more and more, they began to notice the problem, and finally found the wind fairy on the roof. It had an identity card of the beast pirates on its neck, which showed its affiliation. There were no weapons on this sky island, so the scholars could only climb the ladder and try to catch it down. But in the eyes of the wind fairy, the scholars were playing with it. Not only was it not afraid, but it also jumped around with a smile. The scholars couldn't touch it at all with its agile body jumping around, and the cotton was still floating in the process, which eventually led to this result. A group of scholars were drowned in the sea of cotton, and the wind fairy was laughing at the top of the bookshelf, but at this time two hands suddenly appeared from its side and grabbed it. Chapter 256, The Captured Red Count, The Celestial Dragon Slate. Well done, Robin. We finally caught this little guy. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief when they saw the little guy waving cotton being caught. The volume of cotton in the room was many times more than that of the wind fairy. It was difficult for these scholars to understand how this happened. After all, this kind of thing is unscientific. In fact, it is not a scientific thing at all. Strictly speaking, it belongs to theology. The caught wind fairy felt frustrated and stopped waving cotton. For it could not continue to play pranks if it lost. What should it do? What else can it do? Send it to them. There are tags hanging on them. But now there is no shortage of cotton. It will definitely be enough to make a few more quilts. They are not useless people who have nothing to do except research. These scholars have the experience of exploring history in the past and have mastered some skills of survival in the wild. Some small tricks in life are naturally not difficult for them. They produce cotton and generate electricity. The creatures here are really strange. They are called Pokemon. There are also ones that produce cream on the island below. Robin told what she saw on Onigashima, which made these scholars more curious about Pokemon. The wind fairy didn't stay here for too long, and was soon taken back by the people on the ranch. Robin also returned to her residence with Olivia, after helping to pick up the cotton. After 2 days of delay, Kaido also returned to Onigashima with Quinn and King Yanwu. Everything was the same as usual. There were more Pokemon on Onigashima and Wano country. Arceus or Kaido periodically sailed out to find stone tablets, and the Carters did not stop exploring, but they just didn't get much for the time being. After the Golden Lion's jailbreak made the Navy lose face, they finally made a chance to save face. Barrow Rick Redfield was arrested. This incident made the headlines of newspapers for 3 consecutive days, and the Navy and the world government spared no effort to publicize this matter. The Lone Red and the Red Ale are also legendary pirates in Roger's era, and they are on par with the great pirates such as Golden Lion and Whitebird. He is alone, and has no partners, which makes it very difficult for the Navy to capture him. After all, this means that he has no worries. Once the capture fails, he may face his revenge. If the combat power is not enough, he can't do anything to him, and if too much combat power is consumed, he may not be able to wait for him. But the small number of people also has disadvantages. He can't deal with the round-robin battle. After the Navy spent a lot of effort, they finally found the trace of Redfield. The then Navy Admiral, Kang, known as Steelbone, fought with him for several days and nights. In the end, Redfield and Kang were exhausted, but Redfield had no companions, and Kang was behind the entire Navy. In the end, Garb, who was traveling with him, successfully arrested Redfield and sent him to prison. This is a rare victory for the Navy recently. However, the results achieved are not very good. The rise of pirates has not been curbed. If the root problems are not solved, it is useless for them to capture more people. Among them, the number of criminals with special abilities is also increasing linearly. Not only the Navy, but also some big pirates and local kingdoms have begun to purchase sea stone from the black market. They also have a demand for sea stone. Nowadays, the price of sea stone on the black market has tripled. The merchants in the black market will not talk about morality. Whoever pays more is the truth. In this case, Kaido, the largest supplier of sea stone, has become more and more important. According to the intelligence department's analysis of Kaido, they finally set their sights on the celestial dragons in Mirajoa. In Mirajoa, a city where celestial dragons live, a celestial dragon is taking a walk in the city, and his main purpose is to show off his newly acquired slaves. The dark green hair is combed into the style that celestial dragons are used to, and he wears something like a spacesuit, but he doesn't wear a helmet. They wear helmets, just because they disdain to breathe the same air as ordinary people, but it's different here. Saint Masquerade, an official from the world government, is here to see you. A world government agent bowed 90 degrees beside Masquerade and spoke humbly about the situation. The word saint is added after the male name and gong is added after the female name. This is a respectful title for the celestial dragons. It is not a good job to work here. They are still officials now, but if they are not careful, they will be dead or slaves in the future. Ah, what are those people looking for me for? 2 of my slaves just died, and I'm about to replenish them. That's it, Saint Masquerade. They just brought what you need. Is that so? Then go and have a look. Waste, get up quickly. As he said that, he whipped the slave under him. It is also a hobby of the celestial dragons to use strong people as their mounts. Human life is just a consumable in this city. Every day, there are slaves who are played to death, and new slaves are sent in. Then Masquerade met the official. Behind him was a member of the Knights of God. He came here to ensure the safety of the official. Ordinary staff can be replaced at will, but people with certain status in this department cannot be replaced at will. It is troublesome to assess their credibility. The Knights of God are the exclusive guard organization of the Celestial Dragons, and their leaders are also Celestial Dragons. They are not only responsible for the safety of the Celestial Dragons, but also responsible for dealing with Celestial Dragons who violate internal discipline. Seeing those people, Masquerade's expression was not very happy. What on earth do you want to do with me? It's like this. Saint Masquerade, I heard that you are collecting fish slaves, and we just got a batch of high quality fish slaves, so we want to exchange some things with you. This is Masquerade's interest. He is particularly fond of fish slaves. Of course, it would be better if they were mermaid slaves. Unfortunately, he didn't see mermaids this time, but several strong fishermen also made him very satisfied. Well, good. This young master is very satisfied. So what do you want? How about 200 million belly? Saint Masquerade, after our investigation, we found that there was a mysterious stone in the treasure house of Saint Huo Mingu. After he gave up his identity as a celestial dragon, that part of the assets was divided up by other members of Don Quixote, and that stone is in your hands. Oh, that, it should be in the treasure house. You can go find it yourself. It's of no use anyway. It's okay to exchange it for a few slaves. Masquerade did not make things difficult for people in this regard, which made the people of the world government breathe a sigh of relief. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Rocks Late and New Ideas. Apart from the so-called indestructible stone slab that Kaido has been looking for all over the world government doesn't know what else can make him excited. Ordinary animal type fruits may not impress him. As for the fruit of the mythical beast, they don't want to help the enemy. The ability of the mythical beast has not yet appeared weak. Sengoku and Kaido, the new generation of Marco, these people who have obtained the ability of the mythical beast are strong men, not to mention the group of mythical beast cadres under Kaido. Except for Kurizumi Orochi, the shame of the mythical beast, all the mythical beast ability users on the sea are strong. They originally thought that it would be complicated to get things from the hands of the celestial dragons, but they didn't expect that this time Masquerade didn't embarrass them and agreed to the exchange very happily. However, they didn't know that this behavior was the biggest act of helping the enemy. Although the outside world rumored that Kaido wanted to build an indestructible armor, this behavior was stupid in the eyes of the world government, but a stone slab would enhance the current beast pirates far more than a devil fruit. Thank you for your generosity, Saint Musgad. You have helped the government a lot. Don't waste my time if you have nothing to do. I don't know what you want from a broken stone. The stone was not originally in Musgad's hands, but he had a slave gambling fight with others a few days ago, and this was the gambling money he won. It would be difficult to exchange it if it was in the hands of the celestial dragon, even if the celestial dragons of the same family have different preferences. The approachable Huo Mingu, Musgad who likes fishman slaves, and the Don Quixote member who collects rocks are examples. With the stone tablet, the officials of the world government left here and handed the things to the CP0 members waiting outside. The things have been given to you. If you can't do it this time, you don't have to come back. Even if things went smoothly, he was sweating when exchanging things with the celestial dragons. If there was no order from above, he would not want to do this. Since they were in person this time, Ammonite did not eavesdrop on similar news until they called Kaido again. In Onigashima, Kaido is still training Yamato. It is not just dodgeball training. Yamato also has a new mission. She is standing in front of Kaido with the kin number 3 in her hand. Listen, Yamato. Your mission is very simple. As long as you can let me move my second finger, I will consider you qualified. Now you can attack. She still came to this step, sparring with Kaido, but with a blessing of domineering. Kaido's one finger is not something she can deal with. At this time, the world government also called. Kaido flicked Yamato aside with a casual flick of his finger, and then answered the phone. Kaido, the old place, see you again. This time we brought what you need, exchanging stones for stones. You should be able to accept this deal, right? After a long price negotiation, Kaido and Arceus got what they needed as they wished, so the deal could naturally start. But Kaido's next words were something CP0 had never expected. Yes, if it is true that it can be traded, how much are you prepared to pay for each kilogram of sea stone? Kaido, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? You have to spend money to buy things. Don't you understand such a simple truth? Kaido's words made their scalps numb. They naturally knew that they had to spend money to buy things. But they spent so much effort to exchange things from the celestial dragons. But Kaido still charged extra money, which made them feel that Kaido was looking at people for food. Don't you understand what barter is? Of course I know, I'm very honest in trading, but you bastards of the world government are different. If I don't have this thing, I won't bother to pay attention to you. This just makes you eligible to trade, understand? They were very angry, but they had no choice. Kaido's business was almost a monopoly. When they urgently needed sea stone, they had to agree. By the way, don't want money, want gold. I don't want to see the new money you printed. The world government has done this before, which usually means that Bailey will depreciate, and gold is more valuable. In this regard, the CP0 agents had no choice but to prepare to apply for funding again, because Kaido hung up the phone directly. After Kaido hung up the phone, Yamato stood up with a bump on his head. Father, who is on the other end of the phone. I hate that guy. A phone call changed Kaido's attitude. For this growing child, most people will not hate their parents before their parents tell them to give up. The reason why it is most is that some people are born to be evil parties, which has nothing to do with acquired education. Most people will transfer the conflict to the people who caused his parents to do this, and Yamato has already done so at this time. CP0, the running dog of the world government, is also your future enemy. I understand. I must beat them up myself in the future. CP0 in the distance didn't know that he had offended others invisibly. A few days later, Kaido appeared here again on the island in the calm belt. This time he didn't bring anyone else, but only brought some processed sea stone products. Of course, it costs extra money to do this, but it is difficult for people outside Wano country to process sea stone products. Saving this processing fee will cost more. As for why Arceus didn't come along, he just felt that it was inconvenient for him to show up in front of these people. In fact, Kaido thought about snatching the stone tablet away halfway, but in order to prevent the world government from having more than one stone tablet, they gave up the idea. Where is the sea stone you want? Kaido threw 2 large cargo boxes aside, which were filled with sea stone handcuffs and chains. The purity was not very high. The outside world never had any requirements for the purity of sea stone. As long as it was made of sea stone, it was enough. After all, the lowest purity sea stone was not something that ordinary people with abilities could contend with. Here, the golden stone you want. Kaido looked at his stone radar. The last time he learned a lesson from the big snake, he was relieved when he saw the stone radar responding and spit out flames to burn the gold. This is one of the effective ways to test gold. Then he got a golden ball and left here directly with his things. Without delaying on the road, he returned to Wano country at full speed, and the stone tablet returned to Arceus' body. How is it? Not bad. There are only 9 pieces left, and this one. I have a new idea. Then Arceus and Kaido came to the rabbit bowl quarry, because the attribute of the slab is rock, and there are a lot of sea stone minerals in the rabbit bowl quarry. Pokémon are not static, they will evolve new attributes and characteristics according to the different living environments. Many rock-type Pokémon are made of rock bodies, granite, shale, obsidian, and many minerals are a kind of rock, and sea stone is no exception. Arceus plans to make a brand new creation. If successful, there will be brand new Pokémon in the form of the Wano country region. Chapter 258, The Birth of the Sea Stone Pokémon. The birth of Pokémon is extremely magical. Birds, beasts, and fish are just the most basic types. Humanoids, plants, ghosts, and machines are all Pokémon that exist in various fields. Rock-type Pokémon is also a member of the Pokémon family, although a large part of Pokémon is a composite attribute of rock and ground, which makes their weaknesses very obvious. But there are exceptions, such as the surfing Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it has been expelled from the dragon class and became a Rhydon. In addition, there is Crystal Rock Snake. Because of the change in the living environment, its body structure has become crystal, and the change in structure has also caused a huge change in its attributes. Although it is still a rock type, it can live in water, and the thing it fears most has changed from water to fire. This shows that the living environment can have a great impact on rock type Pokémon. The sudden arrival of Arceus and Kaido made Babanuki, who was guarding here, a little overwhelmed, and he quickly ordered all those who were forced to work to be driven back. Take them away quickly. Didn't you see Lord Arceus and Governor Kaido coming? Move faster. Then he opened the door of Rabbit Bowl. Why did you 2 adults come here suddenly? I didn't prepare anything. No need to prepare anything. Bring me some raw sea stone ore. Understood. The mining work at the Rabbit Bowl mining site has never stopped. Wano country has been closed for hundreds of years. The amount of sea stone that has flowed out during these hundreds of years is very small, and the amount of mining in Wano country is also very small. It can be said that the entire Rabbit Bowl area is almost covered with various mineral veins. Moreover, the speed at which this mineral vein condenses sea stone is faster than that of ordinary minerals. Today's reserves are still very sufficient. Even if a lot of them are sold, there are still a lot of raw ore stored here. The raw ore is not pure sea stone, but a primary, or wrapped in various impurities. In addition to sea stone, there are also many other ingredients. You are not going to use sea stone to transform your Pokémon, are you? Kaido has seen Arceus' transformation and creation ability more than once. Whether it is fabricating out of thin air, or transforming real creatures, there are many times. So when Arceus found the new slate, and came to the mining site, and asked Babanuki to bring some raw ore, he had his own guess. How do you know if it works if you don't try it? Let's try something simple first. Then Arceus picked a piece of sea stone, or of moderate size, and injected the power of the rock slate into it. Even if it is raw ore, the raw ore of sea stone is one of the hardest objects in Wano country. It is a very complicated process to crush it and purify the sea stone. But the rock slate represents the origin of rock, and all ores are under the influence of its power. With the injection of power, the original piece of raw ore split into 4 or 5 spherical rocks, and those rocks themselves shook, and gradually 2 arms appeared. Although they are rock arms, the muscle lines can be vaguely seen on them. The round body began to emerge with facial features, and floated up from the ground, about a few fists above the ground. Latai. Geodude, the most basic rock type Pokémon, has always been a mystery in the way it floats. The hard body is the pride of Geodude. While Geodude will use its strong body to collide with its companions to see who is harder. Rock type Pokemon have a very long lifespan. After all, their bodies are just stones. How to determine the age of Geodude is a mystery. However, the longer the Geodude lives, the more edges and corners are worn away, and the rounder it becomes. This is the mark left by the long time on them. These new Geodude have sharp edges and corners, which is the proof of their birth. Unlike ordinary Geodude, which is just a piece of stone with a human face and arms, and unlike a Lola Geodude, which has magnetic eyebrows, these Geodude have camouflage-like patterns on their bodies. Black and dark blue stripes appear on their bodies, and that is the proof of their combination with Seaston. Did you succeed or fail? I don't know. Theoretically, it succeeded, but the specific effect needs to be tested. Kaido, stretch out your hand. After that, Arceus ordered a small Geodude to jump into Kaido's palm. As a person with special abilities, he is the one who can feel the Seaston the most. What does it feel like? Ugh, just like Seaston, there is a feeling of powerlessness. It seems that you really succeeded. You really made something incredible. The effect of Seaston varies according to the individual's physique. These small Geodudes are rich in Seaston, but it is not enough to restrict Kaido. However, the Seaston that can run is undoubtedly a fatal threat to ordinary people with special abilities. It's half successful. Small Geodude, use falling rocks on the open space over there. La. Under Arceus's command, a group of stones appeared out of thin air around Kaido. The body of the small Geodude can be confirmed to contain Seaston, but whether the skills it releases are Seaston is still unknown. As usual, Kaido grabbed a handful of the things that Geodude had summoned with his skills, but his face looked a little strange. What's wrong? It feels like Seaston, but a little strange. Those stones still made him feel powerless, but there was a difference in quality, and he could feel that feeling slowly dissipating. Wait. After waiting for half an hour, Kaido crushed the stones into powder. About half an hour, the stones they made during this half an hour have the same effect as Seaston, but after about 15 minutes, the power begins to dissipate, and after half an hour, they are just ordinary stones. Is that so? Geodude, what do you feel when you use your skills? Latai. Yeah, Arceus succeeded, and these Geodudes did have new properties. But they couldn't create Seaston out of thin air, but the rock type attacks they released had the same effect as Seaston at the beginning, and then they would dissipate over time. This is enough. As long as they have the same effect as Seaston at the moment of attack, these Pokemon are the natural enemies of the ability users. When they reach a certain number, the rocks they release will make the ability users helpless. Their bodies are Seaston. As long as they knock down the enemy and press on the opponent, they can achieve permanent suppression. At the same time, they are no longer afraid of water. Seaston has the same properties as the sea, which makes them highly resistant to water. Chapter 259, Onix and Kokidora. After successfully making Geodude, Arceus decided to make a few more big ones to see how they did it. Babanuki brought a lot of raw ores, and these ores can be used for many things. Arceus repeated the same actions as before, but the energy output was greater, and the ores did not split into balls like Geodude, but combined together. Its body is made up of many huge grey rocks, and the huge rocks are connected together like a big snake. Like Geodude, its body has dark blue and black spots and patterns, and there is a horn on its head that looks completely made of Seaston. Seaston Onix is also a rock-type Pokemon that is active in various generations. As soon as it appeared, it dug 2 big holes in the ground. This is their living habit. Onix can dig underground at a speed of 80 km per hour. Because there is a magnet in its brain, it will not lose its direction, even if it digs holes in the ground. In terms of age, it is the same as Geodude. The older it is, the rounder its body becomes, and the younger it is, the more angular it becomes. Such a large Onix can easily catch the ability user by binding them, and there is no need to worry about them escaping. So amazing. Babanuki sighed as he looked at the large Onix that had directly made a big hole in the ground. He was guarding the mining field, so he knew how solid the ground was here. It would take a few strong men half a day to make a small hole, but the large Onix could easily drill 2 big holes here, and it looked very excited. That was the way the large Onix trained itself. They would drill in and out of the hard rock layer and temper their bodies through squeezing. When their bodies were attached with enough metal minerals and reached a deep enough position, the high temperature and high pressure underground would give them a certain chance to evolve into large steel snakes. After that, Arceus stopped him. It was not that he could not continue to create, but that it would be difficult to support if he created too many. These rock-type Pokemon usually had to eat some minerals. Considering that their bodies were made of sea stone could become their food. If there are too many, we really can't afford to support them. However, we can consider getting some ordinary onyx and placing them on other islands to mine, or we can directly dig out an underground palace under the Red Earth continent. 5 Geodudes and 2 onyx are the results of their efforts. Newly born Pokemon will inevitably feel hungry, and the remaining raw materials will become their food. However, they only eat a small amount of raw materials containing sea stone, and most of them eat ordinary rocks. However, some of the ores were left by them without being touched. Babanuki, what is that? Looking at the ore with a strange color, Arceus asked the manager here. Is it ferromagnetic ore? Who told you to bring this here? The precious minerals of Wano country are not only sea stone. Ferromagnetic ore is also a special mineral here. The demon swords of the Kitetsu series contain this ingredient. Sea stone products are mainly imprisonment props, and the reason why Wano country's weapons are excellent is that ferromagnetic ore is mixed in them. The texture of this iron ore is better and can improve the performance of weapons. The mining and smelting of this ore is much more harmful than sea stone. The poisonous gas and wastewater generated in the Rabbit Bowl factory are closely related to the iron ore. The people working in the mining field are divided into different levels. Ordinary people only mine ordinary minerals, which are not difficult. The slightly more serious ones mine sea stone. Those minerals are more laborious and consume more physical strength. The most serious people mine iron ore, which is not only difficult, but also easy to endanger their own safety during the mining process. Geodude and Onyx are not interested in these iron ores, but since sea stone type Pokemon have already appeared, there is no reason to ignore iron ore. Based on these iron ore and sea stone, a little guy with an iron shell appeared here. Iron armor Pokemon, Cocodora, attribute, steel plus rock. It looks like a large insect, with an oval head and body, but only 4 short and stubby legs. Its main body is grayish white with a metallic luster, but this Cocodora has ghostly lines in wine red and dark blue. That is the embodiment of wine iron ore and sea stone in its body. Its big blue eyes are a little cute, but except for its abdomen, its head, limbs, and spine are all covered with a thick layer of steel armor, and there is a horn-like thing on its back. There are some holes in the armor of its body, which are its air holes and eyes. As soon as it appeared, it began to eat the remaining iron ore. In order to build a steel body to protect its body, wild Cocodora will dig iron ore from the mountain to eat. The quality of iron ore determines their future strength. Not only iron ore, but any metal products can be their food. When they feel hungry, they will even eat railroad tracks. However, they are not without feedback. Like crustaceans, they will shed their skin during their growth, and the armor that falls off is the best metal material. Babanauki, I'll leave it to you. Remember to feed it well. The staple food is ordinary metals from outside, and iron ore can be used as a snack. Understood, leave it to me. Iron ore is just an additive, not the main ingredient. A large amount of metal is transported in from the territory outside the beast's pirates. One Kokoda can still be raised. Although its appetite is not small, it is much smaller than that of young Kyrus. Well, Geodude and Onyx will stay here. They can help you solve some difficult to mine minerals. If you want to open a mine, you can also find Onyx. They are very well behaved. Very well behaved? Babanuki fell into deep thought as he looked at the Geodudes who had already started fighting each other. This behavior had nothing to do with being well behaved. That's their nature. Don't be surprised. They just like to play with each other like this. Onyx will find food underground by itself. Geodude will just eat the remaining slag on weekdays. The main thing is Cocodora. If the child is hungry, who knows what he will eat. After leaving a few Pokemon behind, Arceus and Kaido left here. Brother Babanuki, how should we arrange for them? Don't worry about it. Lord Arceus said that they will find a place to live by themselves. Remember to send someone to deliver food to them tomorrow morning. At this time, He had already seen that some Geodude climbed to the top of the mining field and dug a hole in the ground and embedded themselves in it, and some found a nest for themselves in the ore pile. Chapter 260 Musashi and Jigglypuff. On the Ghost Island, Setsuna, who returned from Taoyuan Farm, met Yamato and the others. There were 4 little fairy milks at the beginning. Yamato and the others evolved into Cream Milk Fairy one after another, and only Setsuna still retained its original appearance. Although she insisted that she was no longer a child at the time, she was still very happy to raise that little fairy milk. After learning the evolution method, her little fairy milk also evolved into Cream Milk Fairy, but the color was pure white. Milky no salt is the taste of this Cream Milk Fairy. It is a rare salty taste among cream milk fairies, and it also produces salty butter. This is more in line with her taste. The beast gene and the bones of the fur tribe makes her pay attention to the intake of salt, but she also noticed a look peeking at her. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen the fur tribe? No, I haven't seen it. Ohara is a holy place for archaeology, not a holy place for biology. Before meeting Zoro, Robin had never seen even the giants, let alone the mysterious fur tribe in the New World. Although the Ohara incident has ended for several months, it has been a long time since they came to the Ghost Island. But she couldn't come into contact with the cadres of the Beast Group on a regular basis. The Millennium Dragon in the form of the Great Bird of the Ancestors and the Electric Shock Beast that generated electricity on the Sky Island were the creatures she came into contact with the most. Alga's face in the human beast form was still mainly human, and Mariah's drug transformation was still in progress. She could only turn into a spider at most, and would never turn into that Spider-Man, so she had never seen an orc like Setsuna before. You are really honest. There's no need to peek. I'll just tell you what you want to ask. This kind of look was not the first time she had seen it. After leaving Zhao for so many years, she was almost used to it. But don't be like this when you see other fur tribes. Most of the fur tribes are very friendly, but some guys are very annoying, such as some very fat cat furs. At the training center of the Beast Pokemon Center, an outside doctor was teaching some medical knowledge to Chandler. Because of their different abilities, Almost Doll, Flower Therapy Ring and Chandler were divided into 3 medical teams. Jigglypuff is an emergency nurse who needs to give first aid and comfort patients. Huan is in the Chinese medicine physiotherapy department, responsible for postoperative rehabilitation or recuperation, and Almost Doll is a physician assistant, replacing the electrocardiogram and stethoscope to check the patient's condition. Jigglypuff's work seems to be the simplest, but it is actually the most complicated, even if their skills are combined. However, there is a human mixed in with these Jigglypuffs. When Musashi and her mother came here, her mother passed the assessment easily. More than 10 years of medical experience is not a decoration. At least she has sufficient proficiency in Chinese herbal medicine. But Musashi is different. Although she has no problem bandaging and rescuing her, her personality is a bit impatient. She is not particularly suitable for the profession of nurse, but more suitable for the profession of security guard. Some things are not easy for the people of the beasts to do, and she was the big sister of the bad girls in Linghao at the beginning. She has an innate deterrent power for the local people of Wano country. The reason why she is still here is mainly because she is familiar with Jigglypuff. Just like the person who studies how to massage Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff's appearance has attracted many fans, and Musashi is one of them. In a sense, Musashi showed her own outstanding talent. She was almost learning the language of Jigglypuff by herself. Those doctors who came to work in the hospital at the beginning might not be able to communicate with Jigglypuff so smoothly, and Musashi has another talent. Her impatience is for some people. She has enough patience for these Jigglypuffs. Jigglypuffs are also talented. Some Jigglypuffs are good at bandaging, and some are good at intravenous injection. Jigglypuffs who fail in some things will inevitably feel frustrated. At this time, Musashi can comfort the emotions of those Jigglypuffs very well. This is probably the talent of human beings, which others can't envy. Jigglypuffs have different body structures from humans. They don't have blood vessels on their bodies like humans, and intravenous injection is the most commonly used treatment method. They need to master this skill. This requires practice. At first, they practiced with plastic dummies, but after that, they had to go through some actual combat. They couldn't let patients come at the beginning, so the nurses had to stab each other. Many nurses and doctors contributed their hands, including Musashi, but this made those Jigglypuffs hesitate. Lucky the third time, the Jigglypuff missed its needle. It felt a little inferior when it saw the tiny needle hole on Musashi's hand. It's okay. It's always like this when we first start practicing. It doesn't hurt at all. Jigglypuff didn't believe Musashi's explanation because it had pricked itself with a needle before. Lucky, don't be discouraged. You've made great progress. You're just a little bit short this time. Come on, try again. You'll definitely succeed this time. This situation doesn't just happen here. Jigglypuffs that can't remove bandages or use a heavier debridement technique often happen. The same is true for the newly recruited nurses. Encouragement or criticism happens from time to time, but overall, the skilled nurses are helping the Jigglypuffs and new nurses grow as quickly as possible. After several attempts, the Jigglypuff that Musashi accompanied finally succeeded. Lucky. It took out an egg and stuffed it into Musashi's hand, then ran out happily. What is this? Chikayan's eggs are great food. Only those recognized by the jellyfish can get its eggs. It seems that it has recognized you. The doctor next to him explained all this to Musashi. Even among them, only a few people have been recognized. As August approaches, the temperature of Onigashima has become much hotter, but with the help of the air conditioning rotom, the temperature inside Onigashima is still very comfortable. After an unknown period of training, Yamato successfully made Kaido use his second finger at the cost of the death of Ken 3.0. Because of the previous promise, she got the opportunity to go out and play, and it just so happened that the day for the Beast's Pirates to go to the Sabaody archipelago has arrived. Every year in this month, a grand auction will be held there. To be precise, there will be auctions there all the time. Because of the geographical location, people from both the New World and the Paradise can go there. The special location makes some areas there very prosperous, and people from the Beasts will go there every August to take a look. Collections from all over the world will be sent here, and there may be some news about the stone tablets, and it is not ruled out that the stone tablets themselves exist. Earlier, when Yamato was reading the atlas, she saw an introduction to the Sabaody archipelago. She was very interested in the soap bubble theme park there. Chapter 261, Family Trip to Shampooland. Although it takes a lot of time to get to that location, the impact is not great in essence. After all, Kaido and Arceus training is carried out alternately. Kaido's education and entertainment make him have a lot of fun, and the training results are also good. For example, after the rock slab returned to his body, he also came up with some new tricks, using rocks as muscles and plants as meridians and bones. A group of dummies made of rocks are standing in front of Yamato. Under the control of Arceus, these rock soldiers are attacking Yamato directly, as if they were alive. This is a new training ground he prepared for Yamato and others. He called it the 8 Arrays of Stone Soldiers. It is an upgraded version of Yamato's Battle Royale. They have to keep walking in the maze made of rocks, knock down the rock soldiers that may appear at any time, and reach the exit within the specified time. There may also be various organs inside, including but not limited to grass knots, invisible rocks, whirlpools, etc. Kaido's training is more dangerous, but all kinds of dangers are known. Although Arceus's training is safer, it is full of surprises. On the last night before departure, Yamato rushed out of the 8 arrays of stone soldiers arranged by Arceus breathlessly. Godfather, I succeeded. Well done. I can prepare to open the second level for you. Godfather, you were led astray by your father. You were not like this before. This is because you have grown up. Alright, today's training is over. Tomorrow we will leave for Sabaody. Who wants to go with you? The Beast's Pirates have the potential to develop into a Beast's kindergarten, and this trend is strengthening as the roots of the Beasts in Wano country become deeper and deeper. Kaido's daughter, the children Kaido picked up when he went out, the children picked up by other cadres when they went out, and some children of ordinary pirates under the Beast's Pirates. However, there are only a few children trained by Kaido himself in Onigashima. Although the competition mechanism of the Beasts is that the capable will be promoted, there are still big differences in what the internal members enjoy. Yamato only has a few playmates, and of course he will not take her alone on a trip to Sabaody. Well, Jack and Mariah are going, but Robin hasn't answered yet. Godfather, can Robin go out? Yes. She is the only person in O'Hara who can go in and out freely. Although she is also a doctor awarded by O'Hara, this degree has not been reported, and the world government has no information about her. Okay, go take a shower and rest. Don't let the Jigglypuffs always sing. Whenever there is something big, she will be too excited to sleep, and it has become normal for the Jigglypuffs to hypnotize her. However, as she grows older and her own resistance increases, the effect of singing has begun to weaken. At the same time, in the Sky Island above Onigashima, Robin also told Olivia about Yamato's invitation to her. Are they going to the Sabaody archipelago to play? That's what she said, but it seems that they are going to the Sabaody archipelago to do something, and playing is just a side trip. Some things can never be found again once they are lost. Robin now has some childhood playmates in her life, but her mind is much more mature than ordinary children. Even when playing, there are more things to consider. It takes almost 2 months to go back and forth to Sabaody. Do you want to go? I kind of want to go. Okay, I'll go pack your clothes and have fun. Olivia has always felt guilty about Robin. Exploring history is her own ambition, and also the will of her late husband, so she left O'Hara when Robin was 2 years old. She wanted to compensate Robin, but she never had the chance, and she didn't stop her in this matter. The next day, the Origin set sail on time, and Shaina and Olga boarded the ship together. They have been handling the Sabaody auction in recent years, and this time is no exception. A month and a half later, they arrived at the Sabaody archipelago, which took longer than Olivia expected, because they did not go in a straight line. Ordinary people would dive through the coating and take the route of Fishman Island to reach the Sabaody archipelago, but the Beast's pirates would choose to take a detour and fly directly over the Red Earth continent when Arceus and Kaido were accompanying them. Yamato, who was sitting in his special seat, had now seen the towering mangroves. The Argeman mangroves are tall plants unique to this world, with thick roots exposed above the water. 79 mangroves together make up the Sabaody archipelago. The root area of each mangrove is very wide, and people distinguish different trees by the numbers on the trunks. Argeman mangroves secrete special resins, and it is these resins that form the unique bubble culture here. Bubble shopping carts, bubble Ferris wheels, bubble houses. This is the paradise of the yellow cube people in Bikini Bottom. However, bubbles will break after leaving this range, so the bubble culture has not spread. Another function is coating. Through coating, ships can dive into the deep sea and pass through the vicinity of Fishman Island to reach the new world. Coating craftsmen are a high-income group in the Sabaody archipelago, but there are also countless counterfeits here. You must be careful when choosing craftsmen, otherwise it will be bad if the coating breaks halfway. Almost all the craftsmen here have 0 negative reviews. After all, those who fail in coating will die from the strong water pressure, and basically no one can come back alive to give a negative review. Although there are naval bases in the Sabaody archipelago, the biggest role of these naval bases is to maintain public order when the celestial dragons appear here. At the same time, they manage areas 60-69, which are the naval bases and the entrances and exits of the World Government Office. Naval patrols can also be seen in some areas. The public order in these areas is relatively stable, but the Navy will not care about what happens in the illegal areas 1-29. By the way, the Navy area and the illegal area are just next to each other, separated by only a section of tree roots, which reflects a completely different scene. However, because of this management method, there is basically nothing wrong, as long as the pirate ship does not dock near the naval base. The Origin directly stopped at Area 30, which is near the location of the bubble park. The flag of the Beast Pirates fluttered in the wind, which scared many people at the port. Most people living here are used to seeing pirates, and ordinary pirate flags will not make them care, but the beasts are different. The Beast's pirates, how come they are here? I don't know. How come the pirates from the New World come to this island of failure? The Island of Failure and the Island of Restarting are the nicknames of the Sabaody archipelago because countless pirates have run into obstacles here, and countless pirates have entered the New World from here. Chapter 262, The Beast Fruit Store in Champadi. The Grand Line is much more dangerous than the Four Seas. If the pirates of the Four Seas enter the Grand Line, most of them will be screened out by the first level of the Upside Down Mountain. After entering the Grand Line, whether it is their competitors or the navy stationed on various islands, their strength is not comparable to that of the Four Seas. There are many pirates who can successfully reach the Sabaody archipelago, but this number cannot be compared with the number of pirates going out to sea. When they get here, after passing through one difficulty after another, new difficulties arise again. Gare Island has stopped countless pirates because of the Sky Island, but Gare Island is only one of the 7 routes, and the Sabaody archipelago is the sum of the 7 routes. No matter which route is chosen, those pirates will eventually meet here, and some people will stop in the face of the record pointer pointing downward. Those who legally sail can take the elevator to cross after paying taxes on the Red Earth continent. Although they need to change ships, it is much safer. Not all the pirates coating craftsmen are called Rayleigh. Ships that failed to coat and were crushed by water pressure often floated around the Sabaody archipelago. These lessons scared many people. Those people stayed here and began to live in the illegal area. This is the origin of the island of losers. And those pirates who successfully passed through the Sabaody archipelago and reached the New World will soon face the terrible weather of the New World. This is just the first test. It won't take long for them to understand why the first half is called paradise. In addition to those buffer zones, almost every island has its owner. Whether it is the famous old pirates or some new pirates who keep each other warm, they are not those who have just entered the New World. They can't deal with it. The natural system, that is invincible in paradise, is just a rare ability in the New World. What they experienced is very similar to when they just went to sea. The new voyage made the Sabaody archipelago an island for departure. Ordinary pirates can't even make a splash in the New World. Only those supernovas with a bounty of over 100 million in the first half of the voyage are worth watching. Most of the pirates who go out to sea nowadays are influenced by Roger's last words. Their purpose is to find the legendary great treasure. Therefore, there are endless pirates going from Sabaody to the New World, but there are very few pirates sailing in the opposite direction. Therefore, the appearance of the beast pirates here will attract the attention of some people. Those people are newcomers who have some understanding of the New World, but they have not arrived in the Sabaody archipelago for a long time, while some people who have settled here are not unfamiliar with it. The time for the Sabaody auction is coming soon. It is not strange that they appear here. Watch less and do more. As long as you don't offend those people, nothing will happen. However, newcomers always have many problems. When a group of people in neat uniforms rushed over from a distance, he still raised questions. Why did those people come here? The clothes are not exaggerated, very similar to those of ordinary company employees, and they have a logo composed of several tree fruits on their bodies. They are employees of the Sabaody branch of Beast Fruit. Although the business chain of Beast Fruit is getting wider and wider, meat and dairy products, fruits, grains, medicines, and textiles are gradually being included in the business chain. They still use this icon with fruits as the initial product. You can see them in the specialty store on the 47th mangrove. Although this is not a specialty of Sabaody, it is reasonable to see specialties from other areas in a tourist attraction. The boss behind them has come, so of course these people have to come to greet them. The 100 Beasts fruit directly uses the name of the 100 Beasts pirates. The relationship between them can be found out with a simple check, and the world government does not care about this kind of business behavior. As long as there is a fig leaf of the 100 Beasts fruit, the general public does not know that this is a pirate company, then nothing else matters. The composition of the members of the 100 Beasts fruit is much more complicated than that of the pirates. The core members here are of course members of the 100 Beasts pirates, but there are a large number of ordinary people among the ordinary employees and salesmen below. This is even more true for the branch in the Sabaody archipelago, but those ordinary people are now in the store, and the real members of the 100 Beasts have come here. The official docks are all in Area 60, but that is where the world government and the navy are stationed, and pirates will not dock there. Due to the characteristics of the mangroves, ships can be docked anywhere around the island, which means that there are no rules here. The size of the Origin is not much inferior to the warships that carried out the Demon Slayer order. After all, it is a ship that can accommodate giants like Zoro. On the way here, Arceus can prepare a small training ground on it, and this size also occupies this area suitable for docking. Although there is a first come first served principle here, not all pirates will abide by the rules. The pirate flag of the beasts made the Origin not encounter any trouble in the new world, but when it came to paradise, trouble came. Not long after the Origin entered here, another ship followed behind, and they seemed to have taken a fancy to this place. The real version of grabbing a ship position, the way to grab it is naturally to bombard it. The young people who have never arrived in the new world don't understand the meaning of hanging a flag on the Origin. However, when they tried to attack, Arceus and others had already left the Origin. The size of the Origin blocked the view. Although they could hear the sound of the gun, they couldn't see what happened at all. The location of the explosion shows that they are attacking the Origin. Although there are people left on it, it will be a gun battle for them to solve it, which will delay too much time. Shaina, go and deal with it, don't waste time. Understood. Shaina waved her wings behind her and disappeared here, and the staff of the beast fruit did not take it seriously. It would be a big joke if the big carters of the new world could not deal with the young people in the paradise. Shortly after Shaina left, two balls of fire rose not far away, and the staff here were still introducing the recent situation to Arceus. Master Holy Beast, the auction will start in 2 days. In addition to the population, the auction list that has been leaked currently is suspected to include famous swords and evil fruits. Here is the details, please take a look. Do you need us to arrange accommodation? No, you can do it as usual, and we will stay on the ship at night. Although there is a hotel area in the Sabaody archipelago, it is not necessarily safer for pirates than on the pirate ship. Even if you are a legal citizen of a member country living here, you have to be careful. If you go out and wander around at night, you may encounter misfortune. Chapter 263 The Singer. When human traffickers abduct and sell people, they will not check other people's ID. Even citizens of member countries will suffer the same fate in their hands. After all, there is a human auction in the Sabaody archipelago. The human traffickers here do not abduct, but rob and kidnap. Although the civilian area is managed by the Navy, it is difficult to deal with some things that happen at night. Once someone is taken into the illegal area, even the Navy will not go to great lengths to find the person, unless the person has the power to get the world government or the Navy headquarters to issue an order. The Navy here sometimes takes a laissez-faire attitude towards pirates. As long as they don't do anything too extreme to embarrass the Navy, they will turn a blind eye. Before the store manager finished reporting on the information, Shaina had already returned. Except for some drying marks on her pants, there were no scars. What happened? Well, the quality of their boats is too poor. I wanted to kick the keel, but I just plunged into the water. Several flagships of the beasts were made of treasure tree Adam. Even those that were not made of treasure tree Adam were made of high quality wood. The pirates seemed to have just been through a war, and the broken boats had very low bearing capacity. Then Shaina and some employees of the beast's fruit products went to prepare for the auction in 2 days, while Olga followed Arceus and others to the bubble park. Yamato, don't run around. You guys should stay close, and don't scatter at will. They landed at the 30th mangrove, and the bubble park was located at the 33rd mangrove, which was still a distance away. There were other tourists on the island, but one thing in common was that all the children were held by their parents, and no one dared to let them run around. It was very rare for Yamato and her friends to run around at will. When they went out, their life cards were in Olga's hands. Even if they were taken away, they could still find their location, but the noise they made would be troublesome. Got it? He responded, but judging from his actions, he didn't listen completely. Yamato was poking a resin bubble in front of him. It was a natural product of mangrove resin. It can be seen everywhere in the Sabaody archipelago. Such bubbles often appear on the ground. From time to time, people looked at Arceus and his group. Elizabeth and Arceus in the Thousand Faces chameleon form were easy to attract people's attention, and these children who came to the Sabaody archipelago for the first time were also quite excited. However, these eyes quickly moved away. There were bounty hunters, pirates, navy, human traffickers, civilians and other people of all identities. There were both young people who had previously robbed the ship and bounty hunters with good eyesight. They made a living by hunting pirates for bounties, which required them to be familiar with the pirates' bounty orders, otherwise they would not be able to choose the right targets. Although the bounty was not completely linked to strength, most pirates could use this as a reference. Although the high bounty was very tempting, you had to have a life to spend it. Little boy, do you want a bubble car? It's only 500 baileys to rent for a day, and only 10,000 to buy one. People who often live here are no strangers to bubbles. Yamato and the others can tell that this is their first time here, and this is an opportunity for the bubble car dealer to do business. Bubbles are naturally generated in the Sabaody archipelago. They just provide a simple wooden frame, which is basically a zero-cost business. As long as they sell one, they will make a lot of money. However, the bubble car can only be used in the Sabaody archipelago. The bubble will break directly if it is out of this range. Locals will not pay this IQ tax, so they usually make a fortune from people who come here for the first time. In addition, new people arrive at the Sabaody archipelago every day. The huge flow of people makes them not consider returning customers at all, and basically do one-time transactions. 10,000 baileys is not very expensive, and they use this mentality to deceive some people into buying their bubble cars. Hey, you have found the wrong target. Several people working at the 100 Beasts fruit products came over directly. They had been following here before, and had been doing business here for several years. Of course, they were familiar with everything here, but they did not say the reason. After all, telling the truth in front of tourists would cut off people's financial resources. Are you a local? I'm really sorry. How about renting 4 machines for 1,000 baileys? They are all doing business here, and there are such unspoken rules between each other. The beast fruit did not expose his way of making money, so he gave him a discount. Weebao. Grand line buns. Anyone want to buy them? The special bean paste buns of Shampoo Land have a shelf life of 3 months. They are simply called Weebao, and have always been a hot selling product here. Soap bubble chocolate. Floating chocolate. Before reaching the soap bubble park, the people behind them already have a bunch of soap bubbles in their hands. This is the way the Shampoo Land archipelago replaces shopping bags. As long as you haven't left Shampoo Land, you don't have to worry about not being able to carry shopping bags. At this time, they are like a group of people selling balloons, holding various soap bubbles in their hands, filled with local goods and souvenirs. This is the result of sending some of them to the origin. As the tall bubble Ferris wheel appeared in the field of vision, they finally arrived at the soap bubble park. They played from day to night, and played all the projects in the soap bubble park more than once. The people from the beasts did not disturb them during the game. The others were watching them from the side, and Olga played with them. This was also a must-do project for her to come to Shampoo Land. She was almost bored to schizophrenia in the belly of the lanternfish, so she has always had a certain interest in this kind of project. Although their novelty has not yet ended, as night falls, some projects have also stopped operating. Just when they were struggling with where to go, a burst of singing attracted Yamato's attention. A man with brown-green hair was singing in a corner of the soap bubble park, with a violin case in front of him, and some baileys scattered inside. Lightly strumming the guitar in his hand, he sang the classic lyrics, yo ho ho, I will bring Binks's wine to your side. Day after day in the dusk of my dreams, I will never see the figure waving goodbye again. Originally, this song was often accompanied by accordion or violin, but now he has replaced it with guitar. Although the track has some changes, it has been integrated with the accompaniment. However, the effect is not very good. Most of the baileys in front of him are coins, and the most is only 500 baileys. The track is good, but the place to sing it is not very suitable. After all, this song of Binks's wine is called the Pirate Song. However, soon, he received the largest denomination bailey today, pocket money from Yamato. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264 Tizulo. Binks's Wine, a classic song on the sea. This song had spread all over the sea when Roger was still a rookie. Whether it was a sailor or a pirate, people sailing on the sea would hum a line or two, and there were many people in the Beast Pirates who knew this song. The creator of the song is unknown, but the song has been passed down for a long time. However, there are few sailors or pirates who come here, and even if he sings well, it is difficult to resonate with people, so the money he gets is not much. Yamato gave him a note with a face value of 5,000 baileys, which is almost his biggest gain today. Although Yamato knew that she should give some change, it was the smallest note she had. The next smallest was some 100 Bailey coins, which she felt was not appropriate to take out. There were few places in Wano where she needed to spend money, except for clearing the inventory for Kajiro when collecting bottle caps last time. Her small treasury had basically not been touched. The amount accumulated to now is something that many people can't make back in their lifetime, so 5,000 baileys is just change for her. The singer did not stop, but bowed to her. Judging from his proficiency, he often did this. It was getting darker and darker. Although the lighting equipment in the soap bubble park had been turned on, there were fewer and fewer people in the park. The people in front of the singer walked and stopped. Now the people who listened to his singing gradually left. Only Yamato and the others stayed in the front. Little sister, do you like listening to my singing? It sounds good. You sing very well, better than Uncle Quinn. It sounds good. It's really a good evaluation. But I'm sorry little sister, today's performance is over. If you want to listen, you can only come tomorrow. It stands to reason that Yamato should sing for a while longer for a person like a sponsor, but he still has work during the day. If he is absent, his salary will be deducted. In order to prepare for tomorrow's work, he must rest. However, he looked at his old watch again and found that it was still early. The income he could earn from working hard for a day was only about 10,000 baileys. It was a bit inappropriate to end it directly in front of such a sponsor. It's a special performance for you guys. Is there any song you want to hear? He really needs money, and if Yamato is happy, it would be best if he could give him more tips. He didn't have any bad intentions. Although he needed money urgently, and there was a kid with a huge sum of money in front of him, he chose to exchange labor for money. This is the promise he made to others. His name is Guild Tesoro, which means the Golden Emperor who will control a lot of money in the world in the future. But now he is still a young man working hard for his ideal. Sing the song you are best at. The one I'm best at should be this one. After adjusting the strings of the guitar, Tesoro sang the song he was most familiar with, but Yamato's expression was a little wrong. The power of Evergreen allowed her to communicate freely with Pokemon, but the power it brought was far more than that. Under the influence of the power of Evergreen, she was more sensitive to other people's emotions, and singing was a link that could convey emotions. She heard something different from it. Big brother, you seem to be worried. Are you thinking about someone? Many people gave him money during his singing days, but there were only a few people like Yamato who listened to him until the end and said that he sang well. But there was only one person who could hear his worries, Stella, which was the reason why he worked so hard to make money. That's a long story. Do you want to hear it? Yamato's act of hearing his worries seemed to touch his heart. This was the second time he told others about his experience, and the listeners were a group of children 19 years ago. He was born in a not so good family. His father was a gambler and his mother was an alcoholic. One was addicted to gambling, and the other was addicted to alcohol. A family with alcoholics and gamblers was naturally very poor. Because of poverty, he was excluded by his peers. One day he passed by a mobile opera house, and the singing inside attracted him. It became his first dream to be able to enter the venue to watch the performance. He wanted to watch the performance and also wanted to be as eye-catching as the stars on the stage. When he was 12 years old, his gambling-addicted father died of illness. Although his father was a gambler, he was also the main source of income for the family, which made the already poor family even worse. After that, his mother continued to drink every day and began to hate Tesoro's singing, and then strictly forbade him to continue singing. In this environment, 12-year-old Tesoro fled the house. However, at the age of 12, he could not support himself at all, so he began to steal. He met a lot of people with the stolen money, and then he thought he had made friends. he naturally couldn't learn well with a group of cheating friends, and like his father, he was also infected with the bad habit of gambling. 9 out of 10 gambling losses, the one time he won, was probably given by someone else's fishing. Tesoro, who fell into the abyss of gambling, almost followed his father's old path. At the age of 16, he lost everything in the casino. Human trafficking has always existed here, so he was caught by human traffickers in the casino and planned to sell him. At this time, all the friends in his mind abandoned him. No one cared about his life or death. He knew what would happen if he was caught by human traffickers, so he fought desperately. Although he was beaten severely, he finally escaped. In a panic, he didn't even look at the road and ran directly to the human trafficking store, where he met his life's salvation, Stella. She was a woman who was captured as a slave. Although she was treated as a commodity in the iron cage, she did not give up her desire for life. Although they were separated by the iron cage, they chatted happily. Tesoro sang a song for Stella, and he was praised by others for the first time. From then on, he was determined to give Stella freedom, so he began to work hard to make money. During the day, he would work in the shipyard in Chessboard, because the salary there was the highest. At night, he would come here to sing, but he never did anything illegal. This was his agreement with Stella, and he would use legal means to make money. Stella is a very expensive commodity in the human trafficking store. This is both a good thing and a bad thing for Tesoro. The high price means he doesn't have to worry about Stella being easily bought, but it is also very difficult to save enough money. For almost 3 years, he worked day and night, saving every penny by eating frugally, and now he is very close to his goal. Chapter 265. False wealth should not be revealed. Lord Arceus, aren't you going to take care of them? Everyone grows up, and they should have their own judgment at this age. Don't intervene if there is no danger. It seems that there is no one else around Yamato and the others, but more than one pair of eyes are watching them. If Tesoro really has any ideas, then his end will be very miserable. He is not the Golden Emperor who has practiced the fruit to awakening after turning evil. He is just an ordinary person. Such a person does not even need Olga or Elizabeth to do anything. He can't even beat the current Yamato. Kaido's finger is still very valuable. They are not puppets. It is impossible for them to grow up under the control of others. If they don't have their own values of right and wrong, they will be easily deceived by others. Arceus just makes sure that the general direction will not go astray, and the rest depends on them. That's about it. Anyway, I really need money. Okay, it's time to rest now. Kids, you should go back early too. Even Area 33 is not safe in Shampoo Land at night. He put the money in the violin case into his pocket. Every penny meant that he was one step closer to Stella. They had been together for nearly 3 years and had already fallen in love with each other. Yamato's 5,000 bailes brought him closer and closer to his goal. 1 more month of work would be enough. Brother, how much money do you still need? She won't be bought by someone else, will she? I still need 300,000 bailes, but don't worry, I will save enough money next month. He was worried about that kind of thing happening, so he kept working hard to make money. Although Stella had stayed here for almost 3 years, he was not sure if there would be any unexpected situation. You're lying. You're obviously worried too. You're just a kid. Don't worry about this kind of thing. Go back early. Anyway, where are your parents? How dare you leave you kids alone here? After leaving the Ferris wheel, Olga followed them more than 20 meters away. There were a lot of people around just now, and Tesoro thought their parents were inside, but now everyone has left, and they are still here. A child who can easily take out 5,000 bailes can't be from an ordinary family. It's obviously unreasonable that there is no one around. Little girl, you didn't steal your money, like I did before, did you? That's not good. No, that's all my own pocket money, but if it's 300,000 bailes. Yamato took out his wallet, which looked like a pink Jigglypuff from the outside, and even the wallet was as round as a Jigglypuff, because it was stuffed full. After opening it, it seemed to be a stack of egg rolls, but they were rolled up bailes, rolled up 10 by 10, and there were about 1 million bailes stuffed inside. Here, I'll lend you 300,000 bailes. Remember to return it to me next month. Because she thought it was right to do so, she did it. Under the influence of Changpun's power, she believed that the other party was not lying. He was in need of money, and she had a lot of money. She thought there was nothing wrong in lending the money to the other party to let him do something very important. And she said to lend, not give. She didn't think she should support him unconditionally, but just wanted to help him avoid unexpected things. As for whether Tesoro would default on the debt and how to pay it back if he wanted to, she didn't think about it. This was undoubtedly a windfall for Tesoro, but after a brief joy, a cold sweat broke out on his forehead. After taking Yamato's money, he pressed her wallet back. He really couldn't refuse the money. Although Stella had never been bought in the past, the longer this kind of thing was delayed, the more hidden dangers there would be. But he was a thief before, and he knew very well how chaotic Shampoo was. In a seemingly stable environment, who knows how many people were looking for targets. Although it was getting dark and there were fewer people in the soap bubble park, it was still unknown whether there were any prying eyes around. Didn't your parents tell you not to show off your wealth? Yes, but this is just a little pocket money, not a lot of money. This sentence blocked all the words that Tesoro said afterwards. The money he had saved by working day and night for a month was just pocket money to her. The gap between people seemed to be too huge, which made him a little frustrated, and at the same time, he had a little more yearning for money. Okay, go and redeem your elder sister. Remember to pay me back next month, or you will be in trouble. I will definitely pay you back, but, forget it. Where do you guys live? I'll take you back. It will be troublesome if it's too late. No need, there are people around. Hey, where are they? Mariah, Robin, Jack. Have any of you seen Sister Alga? She didn't follow us at the beginning, and Lord Arceus didn't seem to come either. Jack and Mariah didn't notice this, but Robin saw it, and those people from the 100 Beasts fruit had just quietly left not long ago. Let me take you back. Where do you live? On a ship outside the 30th Red Tree. Lord Arceus, is this really okay? Arceus was the only one who could call Alga away, and those people from the 100 Beasts fruit were also transferred by him to test their handling of emergencies. Kaido had that idea a long time ago, but Kaido wanted to let them experience it directly on the battlefield, so he never implemented it. So far, they have only experienced ordinary training, and the situation in Shabaodi is just right now. Are those people still following? Yes, and their identities have been found out. They are a group of human traffickers from the Shabaodi archipelago. Then let them practice their skills. It's time to see some blood, but don't be careless. You and Elizabeth follow them, and don't get discovered. Understood. Tesoro sent Yamato and the others back to Mangrove number 30, and Alga's illusion made her and Elizabeth follow behind the group almost invisible. A little further away was the group of human traffickers. Their target was Yamato and Mariah. Robin was just an ordinary human girl. As for Jack, although he was a fishman, he didn't look like a fishman, and outsiders couldn't see that at all. Yamato and Mariah, two rare items with outstanding looks and horns on their heads, naturally attracted the attention of those human traffickers. Although they were quite rampant, they were not rampant enough to kidnap people in front of everyone, so they had been waiting from day to now, just to find an opportunity. The people who followed them left one after another, and now only Tesoro was left. This was an opportunity for them. Chapter 266, The New Generation's First Battle. Boss, aren't we going to do it yet? Wait a minute, the bubble park is too chaotic. It's dark now. We can do it after they go out. This is a rare high quality product, and it's a big fat sheep. Young and beautiful girls are the most popular in the population market here, not to mention people like Yamato who carry huge sums of money. After selling people, they can also find a way to extort a large ransom from their families. This is what he thinks. Human traffickers are spread all over the sea, but these people do not have a unified organization, and the quality and strength of their members are also uneven. There are fish scum who kidnap their own people, there are weak and fragile wastes, and there are elite human traffickers who are strong enough to kidnap people on the 9 snakes. There is also Sister Carmelo who cooperates with the world government and deceives the giants through a series of means. In a sense, these people can be said to be the second largest organization after the photographer group. Some weak people are inevitable. There are stains on every ship, and there are alternative existences on every ship, including but not limited to the photographer who forgot to take off the lens cap in the clown buggy of the crew of One Piece. Yamato didn't show any worry on his face. He even had the mood to see what was different about the Sabaody archipelago at night. Jack and Mariah were in the same situation. Robin was not as calm as the others, but she was not too worried about such things under the influence of emotions. Arceus's behavior along the way did not match his sudden disappearance. She felt that Arceus should be watching them in a corner. But Tesoro was different. He didn't know why these 4 children were so careless. Although Mariah and Jack could be regarded as giants, when they grew up, their size was enough to be called small giants. However, they did not show this at this time. Jin also began to grow rapidly after puberty and reached the current height of more than 6 meters. Jack and Mariah now looked like children of 13 or 14 years old. After they left the soap bubble park, the lights around them dimmed. During the day, only some areas of the Sabaody archipelago were illegal areas, but at night, the influence of the illegal areas would expand outward. Fights and illegal transactions were all happening quietly in the shadows. As they reached the junction of the red trees, trouble also came. Run. There are patrolling Navy on the civilian street of number 31. Those people dare not arrest people in front of the Navy. Although the human trade of the Sabaody archipelago is right in front of the Navy, they don't care about those things and have to help maintain order there. But the Navy still has a bottom line. They can't stand it if other people are captured as slaves in front of them. At this time, they are at the junction of Mangrove number 33 and Mangrove number 32, but the Sabaody archipelago is a circle, not a straight line. There is more than one mangrove connected to Mangrove number 33. It is not difficult to reach the patrol area of the Navy from here, but the human traffickers naturally think of what he can think of. They are gangs, and there are human traffickers approaching from several directions where they can escape. Boy, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. Be careful not to get into trouble. A fat human trafficker threatened Tesoro, but he was slapped by the person in front of him before he finished speaking. Idiot. So many people have surrounded this place, and you still want to let him go? Of course we have to capture them all. It's not like the man can't be sold. Their main target is Yamato and Mariah, but since they have already surrounded them, there is no reason to let half of them go, so he wants to capture them all. Boy, you can't blame us for falling into our trap. You can suffer less if you don't resist now. We will find a good buyer for you. A wound to the face will affect the selling price. Most of the weapons in the hands of the traffickers are open bags. If the terrain here is not too open, they will probably use an aesthetic gas directly. There is no other way. Little girl, I can't take care of you. Try to escape separately. It depends on you whether you can escape or find someone to help. He didn't have the confidence to knock down more than a dozen strong men by himself. Even he himself might not be able to escape. It seemed that they had already targeted Yamato and the others. Even if he wanted to attract attention, he couldn't do it. However, Yamato's reaction was different from what he thought. She didn't panic like a child, but was a little excited. They are all human traffickers, right? Yes, but now is not the time for popular science. Listen to my command. If I say run, you run. Tesoro grabbed his pocket with one hand. There was quicklime in it. He couldn't get out of here without something on his body. With the other hand, he pulled out a knife from his guitar case. However, Yamato's behavior was very different from what he thought. Great, these bad guys can be beaten to death. She was beaten by Kaido, trained by Arceus, and beaten by the stone man every day. She had long wanted to experience what it felt like to fight, but she never had the chance. As she said that, she put down her backpack and took out the Aegean 4.0 from it. She always carried her mace when she went out. Jack, Mariah, get ready for battle. Robin, help me take care of Xiaoxin. The average height of Frost Milk Fairy is about 30 centimeters. Usually, she hangs on her shoulder like a doll. Because she was already a big kid, the Jigglypuffs didn't follow her out. Only Frost Milk followed her like a pet. At the same time, Mariah and Jack did the same thing, and both handed their Frost Milk to Robin. Mariah took out a pair of brass knuckles, and Jack had a small sickle in his backpack, which made Tesoro, who was originally planning to fight, a little confused. These kids seemed a little abnormal. Brass knuckles can be said to be for self-defense, but sickles and maces don't look like things that normal people carry. Even the human traffickers who came over didn't believe this, and laughed at Yamato's mace. Little girl, stop trying to scare people with inflatable toys. No one is here to play house with you, so just be honest, and be careful not to hurt your face. AGN number 4 is not a toy. It inherits the legacy of number 1, number 2 and number 3, and is my comrade in arms. Hahaha, Kit, this is the funniest joke I've heard today. I almost can't bear to sell you off. Blame it on yourself for coming to Shampoo Land. As he said that, he walked over with the rope, and Yamato didn't continue arguing with him. He just clenched the mace in his hand, and then jumped up in his incredulous gaze. Thunder Gossip. Chapter 267. The Water Battle of the Fishmen. The Group Battle of the Electric Spiders. Swish. The trafficker only felt a sound of breaking wind, and then the mace hit his head. At this moment, he understood that the mace in Yamato's hand was not an inflatable toy, but a real mace. The huge force went straight through the skull, and reached the brain. In an instant, he felt a black screen in front of his eyes. After stumbling a few steps, he fell to the ground with his eyes rolled up. Now Yamato's Thunder Bagua has only the form, but not the meaning. Although there is no difference between her and Kaido's Thunder Bagua in the swing of the moves, the core of Thunder Bagua is the combination with domineering. Whether it is the attachment of armed color or the entanglement of domineering color, only by doing this can the power of Thunder Bagua be truly exerted. Yamato, who is still honing her body and skills, has not mastered domineering. Her Thunder Bagua is just swinging the stick. But without considering the domineering aspect, she has mastered the skill of swinging the stick. Otherwise Kaido would not use 2 fingers. The milk of Miltank and the love egg of Jigglypuff provided her with sufficient nutrition. After long-term training, the blood inherited from Kaido made her strength completely different from that of ordinary people. In the training of the 8 formations of stone soldiers, the stone men made by Arceus, it will be damaged under Yamato's attack, let alone this flesh and blood body. Don't laugh at my Ken 4. Yamato, who knocked him down with one blow, stood in front of him and made his declaration again, but he could no longer hear it. He could not bear that blow. The white foam overflowing from the corner of his mouth showed that his brainstem had been severely damaged. Not all people who were hit by maces were called Kinemon. He did not have such high resistance. Pop! The sound of a soap bubble bursting spread throughout the nearby area. After Yamato's blow, the scene became quiet. The traffickers looked at Yamato and were completely confused. For a moment, they all became stagnant. Go. Catch that little girl. She can be sold at a sky-high price, enough for all of us to live freely. Pretty little girls can be sold at high prices, and powerful people are also popular in the auction house. When these two are combined, the price will be multiplied several times. This is why human traffickers risk going to the Nine Snakes pirate ship to capture people. In the first half of the Grand Line, the Nine Snakes were the label of strong women, and women with the Nine Snakes mark could be sold at a higher price. Money is attractive, and under the temptation of the bounty, a group of human traffickers rushed up one after another, and Yamato began to look for her next target. There were many human traffickers, and their target was not just Yamato. Yamato's force just now made 5 or 6 people rush towards her, and the rest rushed towards Mariah and others. Looking at the people rushing over, Tesoro spilled the lime in his pocket, and after blinding several people's eyes, he took out a dagger and stabbed them. He promised Stella that he would not do evil, but he was protecting himself. There is no such thing as excessive defense in this world. If he is not ruthless enough in the face of these human traffickers, he will only be more miserable. 3 years of hard work gave him a strong physique, but he was only one person after all. Although he stabbed one person, the dagger was also knocked down, and now he was wrestling with someone. Jack was also in a melee. Most people subconsciously believed that men were much stronger than women. Yamato's performance made them dare not be careless anymore, so Jack, who looked fat and strong, attracted many opponents. A noose caught him, but the trafficker holding the rope suddenly felt a huge force. The strength coming from Jack was far beyond his expectations. The physique of the fishman had a natural advantage against people of this level. He broke free of the noose with brute force, and then raised his sickle, and rushed towards the opponent in front of him. I want to be Brother Kaido's right-hand man. Who do you think you are? Looking at the 3 or 4 people who surrounded him, Jack made his own judgment. He threw the sickle at one of them, and ran over directly, while they were avoiding. They were already at the edge of the mangroves, with the turbulent sea water below. Jack rushed towards one, and the huge brute force also dragged the people around who wanted to hold them into the water. Plop. Several groups of water splashed out of the sea, and Jack came to his home ground. He was a fisherman, and his role in the sea was much greater than on land. However, the traffickers didn't know this. The sea water was very cold at night. They wanted to find Jack, but Jack grabbed his ankle and pulled him into the deep sea. He was more reckless, but not stupid. It was difficult to deal with so many people on land, but it was easy underwater. Robin and Mariah were not worried about Jack. They knew that Jack was a fisherman. The traffickers were not worried about their companions. They didn't know that Jack was a fisherman, and they thought that a kid going into the water was seeking death. People consume more oxygen when struggling, and the cold flow takes away the heat in their bodies all the time. When they can't hold their breath and choke on water, Jack's chance comes. Although there was still a human trafficker in the sea, his human vision made him unable to see anything now. The light reflected from the water made him blind. When he saw the 2 floating companions and wanted to climb up, it was too late. Jack rushed out of the water, grabbed his neck, and pushed him underwater. On land, Tizulo became the weakest one. One human trafficker fought back and forth with him. The other people rushed towards Mariah. At first, she could still deal with it, but as the number of people increased, she began to be unable to resist. She did not have Yamato's perverted physique and Jack's talent as a fisherman. You hooligans, you forced me to use this ugly posture. Mariah's body began to change. 6 arms emerged from her back, and the abdomen of the spider also appeared on her body, but the difference was that her spider hair turned yellow. On the way, Arceus changed her spider from a rose wolf spider to an electric spider. Zizzy. A burst of electric current sounded in the air, and then several spider hairs shot out from Mariah's body. That is the characteristic of the electric spider. In addition to its own spider web, its hair is also a powerful weapon. The hair on its abdomen is like a flying needle when it is fired, and it is also attached with a strong electric current. If ordinary people are pricked by this hair, they will fall into a paralyzed state, and at the same time, there will be a squirming in their mouths, and then a yellow spider web will be spit out by them. The spider silk of the electric spider is electric, whether it is for defense, setting traps, or attacking, it is a good hand. If the spider form is not suitable for fighting in this environment, she really doesn't want to use this form. Chapter 268 Let the bullets fly for a while. It's not that the electric spider is ugly, but that the spider fruit is like this. She is still a beautiful girl. The ghost spider in the navy looks even more devilish after using the fruit ability. The fact that he used the life return to manipulate his hair into 6 hands is also closely related to his fruit ability, because that is his usual fighting posture. Quinn's potion has not yet taken effect, but her face will not change when she transforms now, which makes her barely accept this posture. That girl is a capable person. There are no strong people among the human traffickers. The fruit ability can already have a fatal effect on them. After being hit by the electrified spider web and fluff, the human traffickers fell down one after another with screams. However, Mariah is not familiar with the ability. It can be said that her electric spider level is very low, so the intensity of the current released is not enough. Although those people have entered a paralyzed state, they have not lost consciousness. But this is not a good thing. The spider web attached with lightning always maintains a discharge state. People trapped in the spider web have no ability to resist at all, and can only be beaten. Mariah electric fist. The fist is attached with lightning, and it is also mixed with her resentment. After all, this posture is used again. At the same time, another human trafficker ran towards Robin. He was not hit on the head, caught by the electric net, or dragged into the water, but his face was covered with cream. The cream released from the palms of the frost fairies can be sprayed out directly like compressed cream. The human trafficker never thought that the ragdoll-like frost fairies could do such a thing, and after that, a sharp pain came from his crotch. 2 hands grew out from under his legs and smashed at his balls. The cream splashed into his eyes, making his eyes sting, and his crotch was hit hard. For a moment, he didn't know whether to cover the bottom or the top, so he rolled in front of Robin and finally fainted from the pain. After finally defeating his opponent, Tesoro just got up and looked at the scene in front of him and doubted his life. He felt that his 19 years were almost in vain. So strong. The leader of the slave traders was shocked by the scene in front of him. More than a dozen strong adults were actually knocked down by a few children, and there were 2 people with special abilities among them. This was far beyond his expectations, but it did not scare him, because he had a backup plan. These dozen people were only part of their gang. He thought that catching a few children was enough, and more people were on guard against other people. In his eyes, this was a piece of fat meat. In order to prevent other traffickers from targeting them, his men who were good at fighting were on guard at the key parts. Very good, very good. 2 people with special abilities. The price they can sell for will be higher now. Come out. Capture them at all costs. It doesn't matter if they get hurt. These people were either barehanded or holding ropes, while those on guard had lethal weapons in their hands. If it was just an ordinary child, his goal would naturally be to capture them intact, but the strength of Yamato and others had already shown that it was impossible. He thought that his men would come out after he gave the order, but in fact, the surroundings were still quiet, as if nothing had happened. What? Is there anyone else? Then call them out quickly. The leader of the traffickers didn't know what to say. He didn't mean to joke with his men. Just when he was puzzled, several people were thrown in front of him. A lizard came out of the shadows. It was Elizabeth who had followed Yamato and the others. It would have been fine if it was just a humanoid lizard, but there were 3 people hanging on Elizabeth's long tail like a candied horse. In the dark night, the blood-stained face looked like an alien, and the long tail hanging heavy objects made a rustling sound on the ground, which was like the bell of hell for the leader of the human traffickers. Those people wanted to attack when they saw that the situation here was not right, and Elizabeth was accompanying them to prevent this from happening. Facing Yamato and other human traffickers, they could still fight back, but facing Elizabeth, it would be a one-sided massacre. Then Elizabeth swung her long tail, and those people were thrown in front of the leader of the human traffickers. Miss Yamato, Lord Arceus means that you should go back to wash up and go to bed. I will take care of the things here. Just a few human traffickers. For Arceus, it is not as important as Yamato and the others going to bed on time. What should be done has been done, so there is naturally no need to waste time. So Elizabeth, who received the order, stood up directly and fished Jack out of the water. Although knocking the enemy into the water was a good tactic, he did not consider the terrain. So after dealing with his enemy, he could not get up. What? Godfather is watching from the side. Hey, big brother, remember to redeem Sister Stella, and remember to pay back the money. See you later. After hearing what Elizabeth said, Yamato did not insist on continuing the duel. He walked towards the origin with Mariah and others. Before leaving, he did not forget to ask Tesoro for something. Today's experience was somewhat dreamy for Tesoro. He did not react until Elizabeth called him. You should leave. I will not be responsible for your safety. That person ran away. Will there be any trouble? Tesoro stood up and sorted out his clothes. The guitar was broken, but it did not affect anything. As long as he worked for the last day tomorrow, he would save enough money to buy Stella. After receiving his salary and the 300,000 baileys that Yamato funded him. But he was very curious why they let the leader of the human traffickers go. Just when Elizabeth turned around to talk to Yamato, the leader of the human traffickers began to run away. Don't worry, he can't run away. Elizabeth's left hand made a pistol gesture and aimed at the direction of the human trafficker leader. Then, with a whoosh, a water bullet shot out from his fingertips and pierced the man's head directly. After Elizabeth's sniper pierced his head, his remaining consciousness heard the sound of the water bullet. Godfather, did you see that? I did a great job, didn't I? Yamato, who returned to the origin, showed off her battle, as if to seek credit. This was their first time fighting the enemy. Very good, but don't be proud, you are still far behind. A few human traffickers were already a relatively simple test for them. The combat power of these human traffickers was not too strong, but it was also quite satisfactory. Some human traffickers would even capture pirates, and many would buy powerful pirates. For example, the celestial dragons like to buy those pirates as their mounts. The exploding collar on the slave's neck is a guarantee. With it, the slave can neither escape nor resist, and even death is a luxury. PS. Ghost Spider is a person with special abilities. The comics have the picture, but the animation team missed it. Chapter 269, Money and Status, Power, and Truth. The next day, Tizulo worked in the shipyard with excitement. Although his face was bruised, he was still enthusiastic. Even his coworkers didn't know why he was so happy. However, those people were not very familiar with Tizulo. His previous experience made him understand the truth. Money can buy friends, but money can also lose friends. He worked hard to save money. He never went to social gatherings or parties among his coworkers, so he naturally had no feelings for his coworkers. In the evening, he got his wages from his boss as he wished, and immediately ran to the number 1 red tree, where the human auction was held, and the human market was located. In the cage, a blonde woman with a metal collar around her neck was looking into the distance. She was still Tizulo's biggest spiritual support, and she was also waiting for Tizulo. Because Tizulo had to make money, his time was very tight, but he would come here to visit Stella every few days, tell him what he had seen and heard these days, and talk to Stella. Stella, I've saved enough money. Tizulo, who ran over, couldn't wait to tell Stella about his achievements before he could catch his breath. Tomorrow, I'll give you freedom, as soon as this place opens tomorrow. What did you do with your face? Stella was also very excited to hear that Tizulo had saved enough money, but she was more concerned about why Tizulo was injured. It's okay, I had a fight with a human trafficker and met a very interesting girl. I'll tell you. Tizulo told Stella about his encounter with Yamato, but omitted the danger he encountered. Then he quietly opened his bulging clothes and revealed the Bailey hidden inside 6 million Baileys. This is the price of Stella, and it is also the result of Tizulo's 3 years of hard work. He did some heavy work, and even if he wanted to save money, he had to protect his body. If he fell down, it would be really over. So he had some expenses in the past 3 years, but most of them were saved in this way. That's a good girl. We have to thank her later. Well, after we pay back the money, let's go to the West Sea. I heard there is an island there. The lights of a human shop were shining on it, and Stella and Tizulo stayed up all night, dreaming about the future. However, when the next day came, the boss here was late. Today was the day of the auction. He went there to prepare some things. When he just came back here, Tizulo ran directly in front of him. I want to buy her. Tizulo's eyes were bloodshot, and his fingers trembled slightly as he pointed at Stella. His tone was full of excitement, and then he handed the 6 million to the man. You really saved enough money? The owner of the sales shop looked at Tizulo in disbelief. He didn't expect that this person could actually save enough money. He often chatted with Stella at the door of his shop, so he naturally knew the existence of this person. He thought Tizulo was just a loser who only knew how to dream, but he didn't expect him to really do it. What a pity. If you had come a few days earlier, there wouldn't be so much trouble. Arrest him. The boss who had received the money suddenly turned hostile and ordered his men to arrest Tizulo. What are you doing? What? You stole my money, so of course I have to arrest you. What nonsense are you talking about? That's the money I saved for 3 years, you bastard. Tizulo wanted to rush forward angrily, but he was no match for the 2 bodyguards there, and was directly pressed to the ground. The reason just now was given to the people around him. Although this is an illegal area, he, as a boss, still has to give some reasons to arrest people, otherwise the business will not be able to continue. Then he squatted down and said to Tizulo, of course I know you have saved money for 3 years. It's because you are poor and powerless that I dare to do this. It's a pity that, if you had come half a month earlier, I would have sold her to you, but she has been reserved by the Cheyenne people. Stella is a very special commodity here. 6 million Baileys can buy a woman who is as beautiful as her and has talents. He put Stella outside and set such a price because he didn't want her to be easily bought. This is his advertisement, which makes outsiders think that he has a lot of high quality goods. Most people can't afford this money, and those who can afford it won't be willing to be a sucker. Unexpectedly, he met an outlier like Tizulo. As he said, if it were normal, he would sell Stella to him. He still has to be honest, but not long ago, a servant of the Celestial Dragon came to make an appointment with Stella and said that he would come to pick up the goods next month. The Celestial Dragon has a hobby of taking the goods away personally, and he doesn't have time to come here now, so he has no choice. He can't disobey the Celestial Dragon. As for why he arrested Tizulo, it was because he couldn't bear to part with the 6 million Baileys. Arsehole, you bastard. Tizulo struggled to get up, but he couldn't resist the power of the two men at all. Don't resist, kid. Who told you that you are not a world noble? Accept your fate, kid. If only he had more money, a higher status, and more power. Yesterday's scene came to his mind. Whether it was Yamato's carefreeness in taking out hundreds of thousands of Baileys or his skill in knocking down the enemy with a stick, he could not forget it. Money, power, status. He longed for those things that did not belong to him, but now he was powerless. Put the collar on him. His men took out an explosive collar and planned to put it on Tesoro's neck. Tesoro tried to resist, but it was useless. Damn it. Tesoro, what are you doing? Stella in the iron cage did not understand why this happened, but the restraints of the cage made her powerless. She had no idea that she had been reserved. Let him go. At this moment, a crisp roar came from the side, and Yamato looked at this place with anger on his face. Today is the day when the auction begins, and Yamato and the others naturally came here, and then they happened to see this scene. He would not listen to a child, but the beasts were so numerous that they could not treat him the same way as they did to Tesoro. However, he was able to open a human market at number 1 Red Tree, so he certainly had his own power behind him, and he was not afraid. What does it have to do with you if I catch a thief? Don't meddle in other people's business, kid. He's not a thief. I borrowed some of his money. You said that what you borrowed is yours? Did you write your name on the money? The owner of the human market looked disdainful. He was not going to give up the money he had received, but Yamato's answer was beyond his expectations. I wrote it. If you don't believe me, take out the money. There are 30 bills with my name on them. In order to prove his ownership of the New Year's money, Yamato asked Tutu Dog to mark it. It can be said that it was a unique pattern. The owner of the human market did not expect that there was such a trick, and he didn't know what to say for a while. But he suddenly realized a problem. What was there to explain between him and a little kid? Whether he is a thief or not is not up to you to decide. I have the final say here. Go home quickly. The quarrel here caused many security guards of the human trafficking market to come out. They were not the human traffickers. Their sophisticated armor and weapons were difficult to deal with. Facing these people, Yamato felt that he might not be their opponent. Godfather, can you help me? You can help others within your ability, but what you want to do now is beyond your ability, so it will cause trouble to others. Unless you have a reasonable reason, I will not help you. Yamato is a little naive. He doesn't mind Yamato being a good person, but there must be a limit. He cannot unconditionally harm the interests of his relatives and friends for the sake of others. Well, he owes me 300,000 yuan. If he is arrested, no one can pay him back. The reason is average but barely qualified. Shaina, bring him back. Chapter 270. You gave a good reminder, so let's kill him. Yes, sir. Shaina, who had received the order, appeared in front of Tesoro in an instant and kicked the two people who were suppressing Tesoro aside with a sweep. No flames or skills were needed, and even with pure leg strength, they could not withstand it. Shaina kicked them directly in the head. The huge impact force exceeded the upper limit of the neck. During the flight, the necks of the two people were twisted into a knot, and it was obvious that they would not survive. At the same time, she picked up the owner of the population market. Although she was only more than 3 meters tall and slightly smaller than Jin, she was still a giant to this ordinary owner. What are you going to do? Shaina did not speak, but took a bunch of keys from his waist and then threw him out together. Tesoro still had an explosive collar on his neck. Of course, Things should be done more perfectly, not just doing what was ordered. Since Arceus' order was to bring Tesoro back, then things like keys must be handled properly. Then she picked up Tesoro and put him back on the ground. He didn't seem to have the strength to unlock the door after being beaten up. Yamato was trying the keys one by one. "Stella, please, help me bring Stella out." As he spoke, the movement of his mouth involved the wound on his face. Those people just slapped him in the face. He was just an ordinary man, so he didn't need to pay attention to such things. "Please, let me pay anything." He raised his hand and grabbed Yamato's wrist. The experience just now made him understand one thing, that money alone is useless. If you only have money, but no power to protect it, you will be a lamb, to be slaughtered in the hands of others. Power, strength, money, only by combining these can you do what you want in this world. Okay, I promise you, but you have to work for us in the future. This is Yamato's nature. She is different from Kaido. Although Kaido acts recklessly, he will also consider the benefits and make choices among them. Yamato thought that what she did was right. She did not consider her own interests when she did it. She just followed her heart, so she agreed to Tesoro's request. She didn't know Tesoro's life trajectory. From her point of view, she could only get the gratitude of 2 people and 2 ordinary people at most. The last sentence was the result of Arceus' education. There were too many unfair things in the world. If she wanted to intervene in all things, it would be impossible, so she would think more about other things. "Godfather, is this okay?" "Of course, but your training intensity will be gradually improved. Not to mention reaching your father's strength. At least you have to reach the level of Mandafesh, so that you don't always rely on outsiders." Shaina heard the words here, and before anyone told her, she walked towards Stella. She was imprisoned in an ordinary iron cage. It could imprison an ordinary person, but it was useless for people like Shaina. She broke a hole in the wrist-thick railing, and at this time the owner of the population market sounded in fear. "Stop. That woman is the cargo that the celestial dragons have reserved. Do you want to die?" His men were kicked away, and he was thrown out as well. This kind of thing happened to him, and made him extremely angry, but he soon calmed down. He knew very well how much his business was hated, so the 2 bodyguards were very skilled. Pirates with bounties of 10 million or 20 million were not their opponents. The identity of the other party who could kick them away must be very important. The most important thing in his line of work is to judge people by their ability. He knows who can be offended and who can't be offended. The great pirate era gave birth to more and more powerful people, but there are only a few people with bounties over 1 billion. Most of these people have their own striking characteristics, such as the appearance of Arceus. At first he didn't pay attention, but after being thrown out, he soon remembered the other party's identity. The identities of Shaina and Olga, Takadas with bounties over 100 million, also surfaced. He could never have imagined that a person like Tesoro would have a relationship with these people. This was someone he couldn't afford to offend. "You can do whatever you want with the man. I will double your money, but not with the woman. If the celestial dragons don't see their goods when they come here, he will surely end up miserable, and he will probably be turned into a slave." His obstruction naturally had no effect. Shaina was just following Arceus' orders and could not be disturbed by such external forces. "Aren't you afraid of the revenge of the celestial dragons?" This did make Shaina stop temporarily, and then her palm cut towards the railing, and a section of the railing was held in her hand like a javelin. "You talk a lot of nonsense, but you are right about one thing. There are too many troubles with the celestial dragons. Stinky bugs. How dare you talk like that? Why not? Sooner or later I will crush all those scums to death." The Lunaria tribe used to live on the Red Earth continent. The celestial dragons were the enemies of their tribe, and she certainly didn't have any fear for them. At this time, the owner of the population market suddenly realized something. This group of people disliked the celestial dragons for being troublesome, but they also hated them, and at the same time, they were doing things that would make the celestial dragons angry. If they didn't want to get into trouble, then the best way was for no one to know about it, and the only person who knew about it here was them. Wait, swish. Before he could say anything, Shaina weighed the railing in her hand and threw it directly at him. The iron railing was attached with flames, and the spearhead with sharp edges directly nailed him through. "If all of you die, won't no one know what happened?" This is an illegal area, and it is common for a few people to die here. Even if the ordinary members have the mark of the beast pirates on their clothes, they still encountered a lot of small troubles on the way here. There are always newcomers who are not afraid of death and want to challenge the combat power of the new world. Master Sheng Shao, please go to the auction first. We will take care of this. After getting Stella out, Shaina had no intention of leaving. The so-called aftermath is not just a simple matter of silencing. It is not enough to just eliminate the insider. The relationship behind opening a human market here is not simple. She has a lot to deal with, such as clearing traces and creating chaos. At the same time, Olga was also left behind. Her illusion ability can play a big role. Not long after Arceus and his men left, the human market was ignited with a raging fire. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, Temporary Musicians on the Origin. This incident eventually turned into an escaped slave incident. The slaves in the population market didn't understand what happened. They only knew that the collars and the keys to the prison appeared in front of them out of thin air. Soon after they opened the lock, a raging fire broke out here. No one sat there and waited for death. This was one of their few chances. The escaped slaves caused a lot of chaos, and the subsequent fire burned all traces. As for whether those people succeeded in escaping in the end, Shaina and Olga didn't know. That was not their business. Tizulo and Stella were taken away together, and Arceus planned to place them in the beast fruit. Although there is a black element in it, being able to become the Golden Emperor from an escaped slave, controlling 20% of the world's Bailey, and cultivating the golden fruit to the point of awakening, this has already shown Tizulo's talent. His fighting talent is not valued very much. Arceus mainly values his business talent. The beast fruit is getting stronger and stronger. They now need an excellent CEO to continue to develop the beast fruit. However, it remains to be seen how far Tesoro can go. He plans to arrange him to an ordinary branch in the new world for a trial. It is impossible to let him directly lead the beast fruit. That way, he will not be able to convince the public. He did not refuse Beast's plan to let him work. Yamato lent him a hand when he was at the most critical moment. He was not an ungrateful person. He also said at the time that he would pay anything. Although he was on the pirate ship, there was nothing he could do about it. Staying here was a great danger for both him and Stella. The fire in the population market did not hinder the auction. People here have long been accustomed to it. However, Arceus had no interest in the things that appeared at the auction. Jewelry, artworks, those things were not what they wanted. Instead, they encountered two animal-type devil fruits. The two fruits were eventually bought by Beast. In the outside world, animal-type fruits generally cannot be sold at high prices. The two devil fruits were finally sold for 210 million Bailey. The end of the auction also meant that Yamato and her friend's trip to Shampoo and Magic ended here. The fire in the population market did not attract anyone's attention, and the local navy also ignored it, although they had to maintain some things due to the orders from their superiors. However, most of the people who took the initiative to join the navy had their own goals. Although there was scum in the navy, most people had their own conscience. They could not take the initiative to release the slaves, but they could still turn a blind eye to the slaves who had escaped. Except for the slaves, who were originally pirates, most of them got on the ship leaving Shampoo with the help of the garrison. The celestial dragons were also very angry when they knew that their goods had escaped, but they had no place to vent their anger. The owner of the population market died and all the slaves ran away. Even if he shouted for the navy to catch everyone back, those people just worked without working hard. There was also a little more fun on the return trip of the Origin. After all, there was a musician on the returning ship, which was one of the few pleasures in a pirate voyage. Yo-ho. The feeling of being watched made him feel excited. Of course, the most important thing was that Stella was also there. She was not as enthusiastic as those pirates, but just smiled at Tesoro. This made him stunned. He had seen Stella smile before, but every time there was a solid iron fence between the two of them, and the explosive collar on Stella's neck was even more of a gap. But now those things were gone, and for a moment he actually forgot to continue singing. The disappearance of the singing naturally attracted the attention of the pirates, followed by a series of boos. Hey, it's time to rest, right? It seems a little late. Yes, Tizulo, there are two pieces of news. The good news is that we still have a vacant cabin on the ship, so you still have a place to stay. But there is also bad news. We only have this cabin left, and there is only one bed in it. But don't worry, that bed is big enough for the two of you to sleep on. Ha 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 ha. Go ahead, Tizulo. Remember to lock the window, otherwise someone will peek. Amid a burst of booing, Tizulo and Stella were pushed into their cabin. At this time, the atmosphere in the cabin was very subtle. The two had experienced too much in the past 3 years, from knowing each other to becoming familiar with each other, and then to regaining their freedom today. If they hadn't met Yamato by chance, their ending would not be good. The deck was silent, and it seemed that there was no one, but in fact there were dozens of people lying outside the cabin, all leaves dropping. 99% of the people on the Origin were members of the cult of Arceus. Joining this organization was much more complicated than simply joining the beasts. These people were all people who had no problems under Shaina's disciplinary review, but this did not affect their fun. Don't squeeze me, the place is so small. You should move aside, you have taken up all the good places. While these pirates were whispering to drive their companions away, a voice suddenly came from behind. What are you doing? Is there anything good in there? Of course there are good things, especially interesting things. Really? I want to see it too. Please move aside. The pirate who replied at this time suddenly shuddered. The voice just now was a female voice. When they looked back, Yamato didn't know when she was holding her frost milk fairy standing outside. Move aside. What are you doing? Ahem. Miss Yamato, this is not something you should see. Yes, you should go to bed. If Arceus found out that they had led Yamato astray and let her see something strange at her age, they felt that they would die in a rhythmic way. Chapter 270 to Cat Boss and Employee Benefits. Why didn't you say it was fun? The pressure was originally on Tizulo and Stella in the cabin, but now the pressure has come to them. How to explain to Yamato the reason for their gathering has become a fatal problem. If the explanation is not good, Yamato will not leave. If the explanation is too good, Arceus may talk to them about life. What are you guys doing here, so late at night? You are sober, right? Then go and wipe the deck. Yes, big sister. Shaina's voice became their savior at this moment. It is obviously much better to wipe the deck than to stay here. Okay, Miss Yamato, you should go to bed, otherwise the holy beast will be angry. Shaina picked up Yamato and took her away. But they say it's very interesting there. You won't know these things until you grow up. Miss Yamato, you should go to sleep now. Oh, it's good to grow up. When can I grow up? Not far away. 10 years will pass quickly. A group of people on the deck were working hard. The friction between the wooden brush and the deck made a slight sound, but under the cover of the waves, this sound was not worth mentioning at all. Tesoro was also puzzled why there was a pink room on a pirate ship. He didn't know this was originally Jigglypuff's bedroom, but it was temporarily lent to them, and Jigglypuff went to share a room with Yamato. I'm sorry Stella, from now on we may have to be pirates. On the chair in the room, Tesoro made this decision. He owed Yamato 3 big favors: Bailey, himself, and Stella. Bailey is easy to say, but the freedom of the two can't be easily repaid. It's okay, Tesoro. There are also bad people among the officials of the world government, and there are also innocent girls like that among pirates. As long as you stick to your heart, you can be a pirate. You don't have to be a good person, but at least you can be a good person. She thought that the beasts would arrange for them to sing songs at most. After all, Tesoro had no other advantages except singing well. They didn't do anything, just talked all night as usual, without the barriers of fences and chains. The only bad thing was that some pirates who wanted to eavesdrop passed by the door from time to time. Arceus was looking through the illustrated book. One of them was confirmed to be the bug fruit cannon beetle, and the other was also in the category of the bug fruit, but the detailed information was missing. This problem often occurred in the incomplete copy that Quinn got. Shaina, bring Zyobei to me. Understood. Please wait a moment. Shaina, who had just sent Yamato back to the dormitory, had been waiting at the door. After hearing Arceus' order, she stood up and walked to the deck. Zyobei was not a person, but a cat. Unless it is a small ship that can only clean without dead corners, it is very common to bring a few cats on such a large ship, not to be worshipped as masters, but to let them catch mice. They are good at dealing with people, but mice still need to be handled by professionals. The appearance of mice on the ship during a long voyage is a fatal problem, so large ships will keep a few cats. If there are no mice, it doesn't take much food to feed the cats. Keeping a few cats can also relax the mood of some crew members. Many people like to play with cats. A beige kitten was brought over by Shaina. The cats on the Origin were the most leisurely because the group of involuted crew members made it impossible for mice to live on the ship. Only when replenishing supplies, mice may get on. Before Zyobei could react, Arceus energy was injected into its body. Its body size visibly expanded a few points, and a ruby appeared on its forehead. It is still beige in color, but more like a lion. The Siamese cat Pokemon cat boss. Originally, it was a Pokemon with a proud temperament and difficult to raise, but the cat boss transformed by Arceus is different. With its tail curled up, it is acting like a spoiled child beside Arceus' legs. The state of the cat boss can be judged by its tail. If its tail is curled normally, it means that they are in a normal mood. When the tail is straight, it is a precursor to their attack. On the contrary, if it is curled up, it means that they have no intention of being vigilant at all. The body of the cat boss is very soft, which is the same as most cats. After all, cats are essentially liquid creatures, but the seemingly soft body of the cat boss hides a powerful force. Saint Beast, this cat. Leave it to Tesoro tomorrow. Some things still need to be with a Pokemon to make people feel at ease. After all, Tesoro is an adult who was recruited temporarily. Whether he can take over the CEO of the beast fruit products still needs to be observed. Having a cat boss around can also prevent some accidents. The next day, Tesoro heard about his arrangements. Beast fruit? Yes, it is a very legitimate company, and it even has a business license from the world government. You don't have to worry about the trade between the pirate islands. A store will be handed over to you at this location. How much the turnover changes within 3 months will determine your future arrangements. As long as you are capable enough, you can be the CEO of the entire group. If you are not capable enough, then you can just be an ordinary clerk. As long as you have the ability, wealth, power, and status, you can get them all. Even if you want to package yourself as a big star, that's fine. He painted a pie for Tesoro, but this pie was very real, and he could eat it, as long as he had the ability. Tesoro agreed confidently. He thought his future job would be a musician on the ship, but he didn't expect it to be such a brand new arrangement. To be honest, this was more in line with his mind than letting him be a pirate. But the island you are currently working on is within our territory. You will have to undergo a period of special training. You don't want to fail to protect her, right? I understand. I will show you the results in 3 months. By the way, do you like to keep cats? Well, it's okay. Then this is the employee benefit. It's very well behaved. You can just keep it as a pet in the future. Zyobei. Meow, the cat boss came over upon hearing the sound, and then came to Tesoro's side. The smooth fur and proud posture were very consistent with Tesoro's aesthetics. Facing Tesoro's touch, the cat boss did not resist. And Stella seemed to like this cat very much, so Tesoro happily accepted the cat boss. In general, you are recruited by Yamato. I'll be honest. Don't do anything to disappoint her. The cake was drawn, the employee benefits were distributed, and the hidden line was left. Finally, Arceus left a warning to Tesoro, and then turned and left here. Chapter 273 Magical Brain Circuits. On the way back, the Origin first sent Tesoro and his crew to another island, which is also the hinterland of the Beast's pirates, and there would not be any trouble on weekdays. The original store manager of the Beast's fruit was promoted, and Tesoro came here as an airborne store manager. Most of the people working in such places are ordinary people on the island. Their lives bear the heavy responsibility of the economic flow of the island. Naturally, some people are dissatisfied with this airborne store manager. However, the people of the beasts did not intervene in this matter. If he couldn't handle this matter well, his ability would be limited. According to the rules, the people of the beast's fruit had a codename when contacting the beast's pirates. At this time, Tesoro also got his codename Sakaki. After a period of sailing, the Origin returned to the territory of Wano country, and in these short 2 months, Wano country has undergone many changes again. For example, Musash's nursing career came to an end, the first Jigglypuff training class ended, and she was also certified as having no nursing talent, but the masterminds behind the beasts Pokemon Center and Kajiro Chamber of Commerce were all the beasts pirates. So Musashi was transferred. She came to Kajiro's Chamber of Commerce to be responsible for security work in some areas. Unlike the old-fashioned people in Wano country, Kajiro likes to absorb foreign things. When Arceus took Yamato and others to travel to Shampoo Land, Kajiro took time to visit the business model under the affiliated islands of the beast pirates in Wano country. After he came back, he built the first shopping mall in Wano country. The model of picking up the goods first and then paying for them set a precedent in Wano country. It is not difficult to get 2 barcode scanners with Rotom, but the problem of smuggling is difficult. There are always people with poor quality in the group. Men are easy to say. He dares to let dogs search directly, but women are not easy to do. Sometimes he has a hard time doing business when he encounters some people who are playing tricks. And he is doing business. He can't put a knife on someone's neck, otherwise no one will dare to come. So he urgently needs a group of female employees here, and they must be the kind with force. Musashi and her former sisters were assigned to Kajiro's command, and became security personnel of the Flower Capital supermarket. The lives of the members of the Beasts Pirates who stayed in Wano country were not outstanding. They trained daily, strolled in the flower streets, or went fishing and picking fruits in various villages. If they didn't want to go out, they would gather together on Onigashima to drink. And they would periodically mock Kazuki Oden and express their contempt for him. This was not Kaido's instruction. Normal people would have this reaction when they saw someone dancing this kind of dance. And Shimotsuki Yasu also privately recruited 500 reliable people. His actions required both strength and credibility. Ordinary people could not do it at all. He could only adopt this secret recruitment method, so the progress was very slow. In the eyes of Kurozumi Orochi, this was not enough. There were more than 1,000 pirates stationed in the mainland of Wano country by the Beasts Pirates. He didn't want his confidants to fight desperately, so at least he had to make the forces of Kazuki and Beasts equal. And Kazuki Oden's behavior also made more and more people look at him with a bit of strange emotions. In addition to Yasu who knew the inside story, even his retainers could not understand this behavior. Only Kazuki Toki was still silently supporting him. She believed that Oden must have a reason for doing this. On this day, a piece of information sent by Kurozumi Orochi made Shimotsuki Yasu suspicious. You said this is the thing of the beast. Yes, Lord Yasu, those are the lists of people in Wano country that are said to be recruited by the beasts. I think we need to find out the content of this list, otherwise it will be easy to expose our plan, and then Lord Oden's efforts will be in vain. Our people can't go to Onigashima. Don't worry about this. I have already found out. In order to win over those people, they put the list with Kajiro. The thing is in his safe, but the safe seems to be a fingerprint lock. After a while of discussion, they thought it was necessary to get the list, but this kind of thing was not suitable for samurai. It was more appropriate to leave the infiltration operation to ninjas. Oden happened to have a ninja under his command. Since they were going to take action, they had to tell some things, so Reizo was called out by Kazuki Oden alone. After hearing the description of the matter by Kazuki Oden and Shimotsuki Yasu, Reizo burst into tears. Lord Oden, as a retainer, you have suffered such a great humiliation, and we still cannot understand that you are simply humiliating us, me. Okay, Reizo, now is not the time for you to cry. As a ninja, you have to find a way to bring that thing out. Understood. Leave it to me. I will definitely complete the task. Just as they were preparing nervously, Kajiro was very calm. This was the news he deliberately released. One of the purposes was to test the security level of his residents. Those people needed a real combat exercise. On the other hand, it was to alienate, and the list was something carefully prepared. The ninjutsu of Wano country has always been a mystery. Most people's so-called ninjutsu is just a sneak attack through some special props, or through the training of physical skills. They can do things that ordinary people can't do. Kojiro was not satisfied with the security of the residents. The patrolmen did not find any trace of Reizo, but Ka did. However, in order to test the ability of these people, Kojiro did not let Ka sound the alarm. Reizo successfully bypassed the guards in the yard and reached the location of the treasure chest. Looking at the location of the fingerprint lock, he took out Kojiro's fingerprint that he had obtained in advance, put it on his finger and pressed it. Kojiro usually goes in and out of many places, so it is not difficult to get his fingerprint. However, the next moment, a current came out from the switch and electrocuted Reizo inside and out. This is Quinn's outrageous design. Although this is a fingerprint lock, as long as the fingerprint is correct, it will be electrocuted. The correct way to unlock it is to break the fingerprint position and use another key to unlock it. According to him, only people who want to steal things will try to get real fingerprints. This design is perfect because normal people can't think of a keyhole hidden under the fingerprint lock. It just happened to be tested together this time. So far, it seems to be working well, but Kojiro replaced the alarm with a device that would give him the list if he got electrocuted, so Reizo, who was shocked, still escaped with the list. From the corner of the list, one could vaguely see the 3 words Hyogoro. Chapter 274 Misunderstanding Anzaoka's luxurious dog life. The quality of this group of people is still not good enough. No way, Master Kojiro. Of those who followed the master, only a few of us are old and weak. It is still difficult to train useful people again. This operation was originally a special exercise to check the quality of his subordinates. Although the guards in the yard did not slack off, they did not notice the sneaking Reizo. Zio-Ka is still more reliable. He rubbed the chin of the caterpillar and then continued. Strengthen the training of those people. How about the things I asked you to find? We have found many hounds with excellent bloodlines in the country. We can start at any time. That's good. Zio-Ka, how about finding you a few more wives? Woof. Caterpillar did not understand Kojiro's words very well, and this was Kojiro's most basic idea. It takes a long time to train people, but dogs are different. Quintero Ranch has proved one thing. The second generation Wagyu bred by Quintero is better than the native cattle in Wano country, whether it is for eating or working. So Kojiro made this decision. Let Kakashi be a breeding dog and cultivate a new group of dogs to help his men maintain public security. It only takes 1 to 2 years to be formed. The original Kakashi could not do this, but after becoming a Caterpie, it has rejuvenated its second spring. For it, this is an opportunity to open a Hari Minute's dog life. His butler has found many dogs with excellent bloodlines in Wano country according to Kojiro's requirements, and the species are very diverse, intending to crossbreed a new breed. As for the higher end combat power, he doesn't have to worry. The residence of King Yanwu is not far from here. With its size, it can deal with the invasion of most people. At the same time, Quinn, who saw this scene, was also showing off. Mahaha, I said, this is an excellent design. As long as the current is increased, those guys who are trying their best to steal things will be in big trouble. Brother Quinn, although your plan is good, why do I feel that there is something wrong? This is Athi, and he is the only one in the whole Ghost Island who calls Quinn like this. What's the problem? What a genius invention. But, wouldn't it be better to just make an electronic lock and put a rotom created by Lord Arceus in it? It's smarter, the current is stronger, and it has its own alarm function, so it won't be invaded by people. It's not that Quinn's plan is bad, but it's a little bit useless compared to the convenience of rotom. Well, we can't use rotom everywhere. You see, those rotom guarding the door have to change shifts. It's boring to let them guard a box all the time. Quinn's explanation is not wrong. Rotom exists in a different form from other Pokémon. They are Pokémon that parasitize electrical appliances. Although they can exist as electronic ghosts, such rotoms are not practical. And rotom's personality makes it very torturous for them to stay in one place for a long time, so they work in shifts like going to work. For example, electronic doors and monitors, which are not moved for a long time, will change the host rotom every once in a while. Quinn's fingerprint lock design is somewhat valuable. For example, the beast fruit in the outer sea is considering using this new type of security lock. And Reizo has gone through many hardships and dangers, and finally brought out the information, and returned to Shimotsuki Yasushi through some secret paths. Reizo? What happened to you? Ahem. Nothing, my lords. It's just a small accident. There is a mechanism hidden in their box. I was ambushed for a moment, but it doesn't matter. I brought the things back. As he said, he took out an envelope from his arms, and after opening it, there were several people's list information and preferences. Brother Hyagoro? How can they have intersections? Of course, those materials are not all false. Most of them are people who have really established some connections with the beast pirates. The composition of the personnel is also relatively complex, including some businessmen in Wano, famous doctors, hot spring owners, etc. All walks of life, all classes, and individual nobles under other daimyo, but the information of Hyagoro at the bottom is the most incredible. During the years he danced, the Hyagoro family was one of the few who did not discriminate against him and invited him to rest inside. Some of Hyagoro's younger brothers who disliked him would be scolded by Hyagoro and his wife, but now his name has appeared on this list. That Kajiro has a lot of interactions with Hyagoro on weekdays. I often see him going in and out of Hyagoro's house, and Injiro has also mentioned this. Although Odin's retainers did not live a good life, they still went out normally. They could not go to Onigashima, and Zorora on the farm was not something they could deal with, so most of the time they were observing the people they could observe. That was Kajiro discussing the problem of gangsters in Wano with Hyagoro. Whether it was the previous assassination problem or the gangsters who made trouble later, those people had become a group that hindered development. As an almost cleansed gangster boss, Hyagoro had a lot of say in this regard, so he had frequent interactions with Kajiro. But that was their business. The national conditions of Wano country were very strange. Even the daimyo and the general might not be as effective as Hyagoro in managing those gangsters, so Kanjia and Odin didn't know the details. No, it's impossible. Brother Hyagoro is not that kind of person. Kazuki Odin didn't believe that Hyagoro would have any intersection with the beasts behind his back, but when these things happened at the same time, the situation became weird. Lord Odin, although this is not very pleasant to hear, it is always right to be more cautious. Mr. Hyagoro's difference is indeed unreasonable at this time. Everyone was deceived, but Hyagoro's attitude did not change. This can be said to be that he believes in Odin, or it can be said that he has a problem. No, I believe Hyagoro. I'm going to ask the damn thing. There is no way to ask about this kind of thing, and Kazuki Odin fell into greater entanglement for a while. Lord Odin, please be patient before the plan is implemented. You should not have mentioned similar details to Lord Hyagoro, right? No, although he has inquired, I have not said that. Then please reduce communication with Lord Hyagoro before the plan is implemented. After the matter is over, we can slowly clear up the misunderstanding, but now everything must be based on the overall situation. Chapter 275 Going home for the new year. None of them dared to make a conclusion about what was going on, so they had to put the situation aside for now, but this also gave Kazuki Odin another thing to worry about. After the dance segment he was familiar with, he passed by Hyagoro's house unconsciously. Little Odin, what are you looking at? Why don't you come in? A woman with short golden curly hair greeted Kazuki Odin at the door with a pipe. She was Hyagoro's wife. Like Musashi decades ago, she was also a rare bad girl in Wano country. In the end, she married Hyagoro, a gangster boss, and changed her lifestyle after that. No, Ashi is still waiting for me at home. I'll go back today. Really? That's a pity. Come and play next time. Yeah, Kazuki Odin turned and left, but he saw a figure in his peripheral vision, Kajiro, who walked into Hyagoro's house with a gift box. Moreover, Hyagoro's men did not stop Kajiro, but instead welcomed him in with a smile, which also made him have a few more doubts in his heart. This is just a very ordinary relationship between Kajiro and Hyagoro. The shopping mall he opened has encountered a lot of troubles. Most of the petty thieves are gangsters. And if Hyagoro wants to manage these gangsters, manpower is the best. Besides, Hyagoro's men are no longer at the age of fighting and killing. Kojiro can also help some of his old brothers solve employment problems and let them have a legitimate business, so the two sides of such exchanges. Teoiden Farm. Setsuna opened a drawer, which was a neat row of diaries. Some of them were still covered with plastic film, which was brand new, and some of the covers began to yellow. That was her first diary. It has been a long time since she left Zal. She is no longer the 7-year-old wolf. She has changed a lot in nearly 10 years, but the habit of writing a diary is still there. December 27th, 1500. Sunny. It will be the 10th year since leaving Zal. Zerora is working hard every day, but he seems to have encountered the biggest opponent in his life height. Setsuna remembered that he was already 1.8 meters tall, but it seemed to have reached the limit recently, and could not grow any longer. He only reached Setsuna's chest. Yanayan was the same. He had always been that big, but they were both very cute. Yanayan was her frosty milk fairy, who was much cuter than ordinary dolls. But this time was different. Setsuna planned to go back to Zal for the new year. Zerora finally agreed to go with me. Mom would probably like him very much, but dad might not. After getting the life card from Inarashi, she found the way back to Zal. However, she had been busy in the past few years, so she did not go back. It was impossible for her to say that she did not miss home. People like Inarashi or Cat VIP who were brainwashed to the point of forgetting their own race and country were a minority. After putting away her diary, Setsuna began to pack her luggage. She had finally gone home, but she had not yet decided what to do. Moreover, her neighbor was unusually quiet today. There was no sound of generators or electricity, because Zerora was on the ghost island at that time. Your Majesty, I will go to Zal with Setsuna tomorrow. Just go. You are not unable to come back. What is there to worry about? Zerora rarely bothered him, and this time, when she returned to Onigashima and said some strange things to him, he felt a little abnormal. I want to ask you if I should bring some gifts. His purpose of appearing was not simple. Arceus created him to contact the fur tribe, but Zerora was a unique individual. Loyalty was the root of his bones, and his thinking was independent. He was a unique fantasy Pokemon, not a puppet. At first, his contact with Setsuna was purposeful, but in the past 10 years, he and Setsuna had been together almost day and night for almost 10 years, witnessing the changes from a baby carriage to a big car, and he had a real feeling for Setsuna. Before returning to Zal, Setsuna had discussed her parents a lot, which invisibly brought a kind of pressure to Zerora, the feeling of a son-in-law. Arceus gave him basic common sense and let him develop his own way of thinking in life, but this kind of thing was completely his blind spot. For the creatures created by Arceus, Arceus was their greatest support, so he would return here to seek help. Ahaha, have you reached this point? You can pick a few things from the treasure house of Onigashima. Hurry up, I really want to see what kind of children cats and wolves will give birth to. Your children should not be weak either. Arceus hadn't decided what to bring him, and Kaido on the side directly handed over the treasure house of Onigashima to Zerora. But strength is the most important thing. If you really can't do it, just defeat them all. After finally saying something normal, Kaido brought the topic to a very strange place. After all, he was a person who valued strength above all else. In his opinion, as long as he had enough strength, many things could be solved. The task of picking things finally fell on him. The fur tribe didn't eat furry mammals, so most of the things he picked were preserved overseas specialties. Just when he was struggling, he met Quinn. After knowing what happened, he took the responsibility directly. Leave it to me, I'm good at this. You? Zerora looked at him suspiciously. He didn't trust Quinn in this regard. After all, Quinn often did outrageous things. What's that look? I was a popular person when I was young. If I wasn't worried about making others unable to walk, I wouldn't eat so much. Leave the gifts to me. The next day, Setsuna saw Zerora carrying a super package. From the exposed part, it seemed that there were many strange things inside, and some machine products. Those are gifts. Quinn said that these things will definitely be useful in Zal, so he packed them for me. Actually, you don't need to bring these things. It's okay, let's go. The flight is ready. The Millennium Dragon leader landed in front of them. For the Millennium Dragon, it doesn't matter where you celebrate the new year, but if you take a ship, you may not be able to reach Zal this year, so they troubled the Millennium Dragon. The Millennium Dragon's back is very broad, and 2 people plus 2 large packages do not affect its flight. Following the direction indicated by the life card, they flew towards the rising sun towards Zal. I'd like to say in advance that Otten is probably going to be offline for the Mid-Autumn Festival holiday, so please don't rush him. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.